Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. My apologies to all. We had a closed door session that was critically important and we needed to take that extra time. So with that said, welcome everyone. If you could please, City Clerk, if you could please do roll call.
Okay. Councilmember Holliber.
Present.
Councilmember Fung.
Here.
Councilmember Pappen.
Here.
Vice Mayor Leva.
Here.
Mayor Snyder.
Here.
All council members are present.
Excellent. Thank you, City Clerk. If you could all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, tonight we have the Vice Mayor is going to present our Commissioner and Committee service pins. Vice Mayor, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, you're still muted.
Damn button, sorry about that. Even though we're virtual, everybody, I want to thank you for being here tonight. And we're taking the time to honor the dedication and the hard work for 5 great commissioners and committee members. They've given so much to Millbrae that is truly a great place to live. So Millbrae is lucky to have so many people who devote time and energy to giving back to this community. And as a lot of you know, we have 8 commissions and committees, and they work very diligently to improve the life for those who live, work, and play in our city. So often they make very important decisions and policies on projects that shape our community, and their role in our community cannot be overemphasized. They're instrumental in understanding and improving the policies that affect everything in our city. So today's ceremony is important because it's time for us to step back and look at the great work of our commissioners and our committee members and what they do. So this is to give them and honor them for their many years of service. Collectively, they have, these honorees have served commissioners and committee members for more than 65 years. I'm not sure if Harry Albright is on the Zoom call tonight. Is she here? I think that
Committee member Albright said he is unavailable to attend, and he did apologize.
Darn, he's been such a value to our city. You know, he's been more than 20 years on the Economic Vitality Committee. And as when my first year as a council member, I served on the Economic Vitality Advisory Committee, and he was super helpful and incredibly committed to everything he did. I think that his work has been such great help to the city council in developing a plan to move the city forward and creating a robust economy and supporting all the local business all the time. I want to, since it's being recorded, I just want to say, Harry, we thank you for your dedication and your service to the committee and to the city of Millbrae. Secondly, I would like to recognize Myra Warto and Kara Karishnikov for their decades of work with the Millbrae Community Enhancement Advisory Committee. Myrna has served the city of Millbrae for 15 years, and Carol for the city the last 10. And I think I saw them on our Zoom. During this time, they've worked diligently with our city staff and local partners to help improve the quality of life of the people who call Millbrae their home. Through their work, they've encouraged and supported the neighbors with the Millbrae Beautification Awards, and they've dedicated themselves to making Millbrae a clean and beautiful place to live, work, and again, play. Myrna, thank you for your 15 years of service to the city of Millbrae. And Carol, thank you for your 10 years of service to the city of Millbrae.
Thank you.
Oh, there you are. Thank you, Carol. Next, I'd like to recognize Peter Ye for his 15 years of service on the Sister City Committee. On the commission, Peter's helped expose our children and our community to other cultures and ways through our connections through the cities of Hanyu, Japan, La Serena, Chile, and Mosta, Malta. And I know that many of the council members here have gotten to take advantage of our commission of the other cultures, and they were life memories for all of us. As a diverse community, his work has not just been instrumental in building good relationship with friends in other countries, but also helping us to understand the rich histories and the cultures of our neighbors. Peter, thank you for your 15 years of service to Millbrae. Do I see Peter here? There he is. Peter, you want to? Thank you, Peter, so much.
Yes, it's my honor.
Oh, thank you very much. And lastly, but not leastly, I'd like to recognize my dear friend Maureen Davis for her 5 years of service on the City Millbrae Planning Commission. Maureen is a true community leader, and her work on the Planning Commission has truly been commendable. Over the past 5 years, she's worked on important issues such as housing, zoning, and the development of our intermodal station. Her work has truly made our community a better place to live and will benefit the people of Millbrae for decades to come. Maureen, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Annie.
Thank
It's been
you.
a wonderful 5 years.
Thank you for your 5 years of service to the city of Millbrae, Maureen. It's an honor to say that to you.
Thanks.
So from the bottom of our hearts, we want to thank everyone for your time, your energy, and dedication in helping make Millbrae a truly great place to live, to work, and to play. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. City Clerk, can you please pull up the proclamation proclaiming the month of July as Park and Recreation Month? And I believe we have Chair Julie Turner. Do we have Julie in the audience?
Yes. Hello, Mayor.
Okay. Very good. Hello, Chair. All right. Whereas since 1985, America has celebrated July as Park and Recreation Month, a program of the National Recreation and Parks Association to raise awareness of the essential services that park and recreation professionals provide to communities across the United States of America. And whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout the country, including Millbrae, and whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also provide the mental and emotional health of all citizens and residents. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, and attraction and retention of businesses and crime reduction. And whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, whereas Millbrae recognizes the benefits derived from park and recreation resources, now, therefore, we, the members of the Millbrae City Council, do hereby proclaim July 2021 as Parks and Recreation Month. And Chair Julie Turner, if you'd like to say a few words.
Yes, well, I want to thank you very much for this proclamation. I'm very much looking forward to July and a whole new recreation season, very different than we saw last year. And we've got some pictures here that show how we're bringing programs back to hopefully some state of normalcy. So we've got programs, obviously, that span all generations here. So we've got the kids programs, and if you just want to click through a couple more of these pictures of other, there we go, we got the skate park, and there is a sample of the artwork that we expect to see coming up very soon with the mural. And the next one, we have more community members and the line dancing that we all love and miss inside of our recreation center, but it's doing very well here on the in the Millbrae Library parking lot. And I think we also have some pictures of the Josephine Waugh Park, which is part of our spur trail that got a significant enhancement and is looking much more connected across our city today than it has in the several decades that I've lived in Millbrae here. So very excited. All of these projects and all of these programs is what our Parks and Recreation staff and our commission support on a regular basis. And we thank the City Council for this proclamation to recognize this very important part of generating and improving our quality of life across all generations here in Millbrae. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair Turner. City Manager, I'm sure you're going to want to point out that this brand new grass that has just been installed is a new kind of mixture of grass seeds and is supposed to be highly drought tolerant. So as you know, as we all know, we're going into that drought. The City Manager, hopefully in his comments, will talk a little bit more about that grass. And to Julie and to the Park and Rec Commission, to our recreation staff and our park staff, tremendous job getting us through the last year and a half. If COVID proved nothing, it's the incredible value of all of our public spaces, and you kept us in good hands. So thank you for all of that. Okay, we have a full agenda tonight. So moving on to agenda item number 2, agenda overview and staff briefing. City Manager, it's in your hands.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening to you and members of the City Council and the Millbrae community. Tom Williams, City Manager. Real quick, a few updates. I think, Mayor, as you just mentioned, the renovation of Josephine Waugh Park and the Spur Trail, which was a grant that we received from CCAG, has really made a nice improvement to the city. The turf out there is a new variety of turf called 1090. The water consumption is 10% of what normal turf is, so saving us 90% of water consumption. So we're testing this out to see how it goes. We thought this was a great place. And I have, over the last couple of days, exactly what we had anticipated, seeing people with blankets out there enjoying hanging out in the sunshine. So it's a great amenity to the city, as well as the expansion of the Spur Trail between Millbrae Avenue and Hillcrest. Also, I'm pleased to announce that our Beats and Brews is back. We're kicking it off this summer on July 4th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. It is located on the 300 block of Broadway between Hillcrest and La Cruz. We have a great band called the Rock Bottom Boys that will be performing on this 4th of July event. So we hope to see the whole Millbrae community and everyone in our region come in and really enjoy the sunshine and the festivities, support our local businesses and restaurants on the afternoon of July 4th from 3 to 5. Also on this coming Monday, June 28th, we have a joint City Council and Planning Commission study session on our general plan. General plans are really once in a generation opportunity to help shape the vision and build out of a city. And so again, the study session is June 28th, 6 p.m. via Zoom. Information can be found. We have a dedicated general plan update website now, www.millbrae2040.com. Again, that's www.millbrae2040.com. Also like to announce that we've extended the recruitment for our applications for Millbrae commissions and committees. We have vacancies in several commissions and committees, including Community Enhancement Advisory Committee, Cultural Arts Advisory Committee, Economic Vitality Advisory Committee, Park and Recreation Commission, Senior Advisory Committee, Sister Cities Commission, and our Youth Advisory Committee. So you can learn more about it on our website, which is www.ci.millbrae.ca.us. You can also contact Elaine Tran, our city clerk, at 650-259-2414. Her number's on our website as well if you have any additional questions or would like more information. Also, 4th of July is coming up. As I mentioned, fireworks are illegal in the city of Millbrae. So please remember that all fireworks are illegal to possess, sell, or use within the city and in unincorporated San Mateo County. This includes the safe and sane fireworks, so sparklers, fountains, smoke balls. Even the safe and sane are illegal within the city of Millbrae and the county. The Sheriff's Office will be out in force this 4th of July, as well as CCFD, strictly enforcing this firework prohibition. Violators can now be punished as a misdemeanor and a fine up to $1,000 or 6 months in jail. So we are taking it very, very serious this year. And then lastly, as a part of a fundraiser, the Millbrae Garden Club is hosting a plant sale on July 9th, which is the same evening as our outdoor movie night at Central Park. The garden sale will start at 5 p.m. up at the community garden that's located in our Central Park. So again, July 9th, 5 o'clock is a garden sale fundraiser for the Recreation Center. So Mayor, that concludes the update. I'll move to the agenda overview. After this item, we have approval of meeting minutes, which is item number 3, and that's approval of the regular meeting minutes of April 27th, 2021. There are no oral reports from any committee or commission chairs this evening. Then we entertain public communication. That's for any member of the public that would like to address the city council on any item not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Then we move to the consent calendar. We have 6 items on the consent calendar, starting with item number 5, which is to receive and review the monthly general fund financial report for the period ending May 31st. Item number 6 is our monthly update for the Recreation Center design and construction process. Item number 7 is a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of the 5th Amendment with MCTV for 1 year, ending June 30th, 2022. We also have a resolution and an agreement with Trent Sunohara, the Professional Services and Strategic Communication Service that acts as our PIO for the first quarter of the fiscal year, which would end September 30th, 2021. Item number 9 is to consider a resolution to adopt the list of projects for fiscal year 21-22 that will be funded through SB1, which is a gas tax, and that's the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017. Item number 10, and I'm requesting that we remove this item from the agenda and I'll place it on a future agenda. There was new information that was brought to my attention since the printing of this report, but that item is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with the State of California Department of Transportation, Caltrans, for the airspace and lease over at our city corporation site on the east side of 101. Then we move into our public hearing item number 11, and that is to conduct a public hearing and waive the first reading to introduce an ordinance that is our affordable housing, inclusionary zoning, as well as our fee requirements and fee ordinance that's associated with our affordable housing. Moving on to existing business, item number 12 is to review and discuss the Millbrae Chamber of Commerce Art and Wine Festival plans as a continuation of the last city council meeting. Then moving to new business, item 13 is an informational report on the reopening of city facilities, City Hall, basically. Item 14 is an informational report on the disposition and development of the city-owned parcel located west of the Millbrae Transit Station in the Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan. Then we move on to council comments, Mayor, and then we do have another closed session after the regularly scheduled meeting regarding labor negotiations.
Thank you, City Manager. And before we go on to report of 2 past closed sessions, there has been a public request to move agenda item 12, the discussion of the Millbrae Chamber of Commerce's Art and Wine Festival plans, and agenda item 13, the informational report on reopening city facilities, to just after consent calendar. So unless I hear from council members that they do not support that, that's mainly because we have members in the audience who would like to speak on those and get those done at the beginning, and then we'll go back to the regular agenda item on that. Okay, I don't see any problems. With that, City Attorney, can you please give the reports out?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I have 2 closed sessions on which to report out. The first occurred at the end of your June 8th, 2021 regular council meeting. That was the labor negotiation sessions. I will report that no action was taken on that session. We also preceded this regular council meeting with a special meeting that was primarily a closed session on a matter of anticipated litigation, and there is no action to report on the record. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you, City Attorney. Moving on to approval of the April 27th, 2021 minutes. There was one minor change that the city clerk has already made under a councilman's public comments. I don't want to speak for the councilman for that, but if there are no other changes, then a motion to approve and a second.
So moved.
Was that
Oliva.
Vice Mayor? Thank you, Vice Mayor. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Pappen. Discussion? Okay, City Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Councilmember Holliver,
Aye.
Councilmember Fong,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Oliva,
Aye.
Mayor Snyder.
Aye.
The regular meeting minutes of April 27th with amendment to page 4 under council comments to reflect Councilmember Holliver attended the CCAG Congestion Management and Environmental Quality Committee is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, City Clerk.
Hey, Mayor, may I? So this is live TV and nothing's ever perfect. And I forgot to mention, because I wanted to introduce during my my update, our new police chief, Chief Christina Corpus. And as part of my update, she has a few updates for the community. So if I may introduce Chief Corpus and provide her an opportunity to introduce her to the Millbrae community, which she already has at the Coffee with the Chief a couple of weeks ago. And she has a few announcements for us. So thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. Chief Corpus, welcome, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Schneider, council members, members of the community. I appreciate the time this evening, and I am so looking forward to working with the city of Millbrae and the residents. It's a very exciting time for me, and I am so excited. So I just wanted you to all know that, and I am looking forward to bringing other programs to Millbrae and engaging with the community. So tonight I wanted to talk about our Neighborhood Watch program and our camera registry program. So we do have a camera registry program where if anyone has any type of alarm camera system in their home, you can register. And how that works is you would contact Valerie Barnes, and via email, we would register you and the type of camera system that you have. And then we would also provide you with a lawn sign that Sergeant Zereni is holding on the left side. And it would basically, it's a preventative measure to show that there are cameras in use, and you do share the video with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, and you would get those once you sign up. And we are looking forward to implementing those in the city. And then we also have a Neighborhood Watch program that we'd like to launch. And this is really an opportunity to get to know each other, get to know our neighbors. So we like to have meetings. We support the meetings. We will help you get started. And then, we like to kick it off with a meet and greet in the neighborhood. And we usually do those with a community barbecue. So we're looking forward to doing that. And if anyone has any questions in regards to these programs, I'd be more than happy to answer any of the questions.
Thank you, Chief. You meant at a later date, or did you mean right now?
I can at a later date, or you can always email me. My email is ccorpus@smcgov.org, or you can email Valerie and she will push those questions off to me as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 4.
Questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay, council questions? Gina, Councilwoman Pappen, go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, Chief, welcome to Millbrae. Good to see you. So previously, Millbrae had some sort of a camera registry. I'm assuming those records no longer exist. So is there a way to check that?
Yes.
Okay, if we could, and I'll just send Valerie an email, but I think we want to confirm with the public if they previously registered, do they need to do that again?
Absolutely. We can check on that, and I can check the records. And if we do, then I can also push that, push some messaging out in regards to that as well.
Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor, sorry, I think you were first. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Welcome to Millbrae. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
As far as the neighborhood watch goes, how do you want us to organize that? Because I'd be happy to host one on my block for you.
Sure. Just shoot me an email and we can get that started. So what I'd like to do is create a meeting and host the neighbors, and then we can assign block captains and really work in building kind of just that sense of community again with our neighbors, and really just getting to know one another, because we can help each other. And on top of that, we also have the vacation requests, so we can do the checks as well when residents are out on vacation as well.
Awesome. So I will just email you and we'll set a date.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other council? Ms. Barnes, I see you on the line if you want to take the floor.
Hi, good evening, everybody, Madam Mayor, City Council. I just want to let everybody know I still have the records of everybody who has previously registered for the video program. So I have those. Anybody who's interested in signing up, go ahead and email me and I'll get you all dialed in.
Ms. Barnes or Chief Corpus, do you want to let the public know just how helpful those videos are? I mean, I know council gets updates on these, but tell us about that.
It's a safeguard. It's really a preventative measure. Normally when somebody is looking at homes and, with in relation to criminal activity, they will look to see if the home has any type of camera system, an alarm system, because when we don't have those, then we become more vulnerable. And so with those, we not only help ourselves, but we help our neighbors as well. So if there was, say, at my residence, say I lived at 123 Millbrae Avenue, and then there was a burglary at 125 Millbrae Avenue. If I had the cameras and say my neighbor did not, I would be able to share that, and the deputies would be able to contact me to see if I can review my camera system and see if it caught any of that criminal activity.
Excellent, thank you. Any further questions? Thank you so much. And again, welcome. And Ms. Barnes, it's great to see you again.
Thank you so much. You too, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right. And be safe out there. All right. We have agenda item number 4, oral report from committee and commissioners. We have no oral reports tonight. Now for the public, this is our next agenda item, public communication. Oh, Gina?
Not yet.
Okay. Public communication. This is for items that are not on tonight's agenda item. Council cannot reply back to you because we have to only comment on things that are publicly noticed. If you could please give your name and address, that helps the city clerk when she's writing up the minutes. And I am looking for, if you can please raise your hand if you're on Zoom, or beforehand, City Clerk, if people are on the phone, do you want to explain to them how to get your attention?
Sure. So if you are calling in, please press *9 to raise your hand. I did receive a message from some public members who will be calling in today. So please remember, if you're calling in, press *9. If you're in virtually, please go ahead and use the raise hand feature and you'll be called on.
Thank you, City Clerk. And again, these are for items, discussions not on tonight's agenda. With that, I see Doug Wong. Please go ahead, Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong, we can't hear you yet.
Mr. Wong, you're being unmuted.
Can you guys hear me now?
Can you hear me now? You're great.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I had to hit *6. My name is Doug Wong, and I'd like to begin by saying that I'm not looking for a response to my comments from council staff or anyone else today, because that would be a violation of the Brown Act. I'm not here to talk about kids, kiss and ride parcel. Thanks for scheduling that item, although it would have been scheduled long ago.
Mr. Wong, I think we lost you. I heard a click and then you were gone.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. You're back. You're back.
Okay. All right. Okay. My name is Doug Wong. I'd like to begin by saying that I'm not looking for a response to my comments from council or staff or anyone today. That would be a violation of the Brown Act. I'm not here to talk about the kiss and ride parcel, but thanks for scheduling that item. That's really important, although it should have been scheduled long ago. Instead, I'm going to address another nearby city property, 100 El Camino Real, which has been left off today's agenda. The city spent over $1 million to acquire the property as a strategic investment to help instigate the development of El Camino Real. Why is 100 El Camino Real not included on tonight's agenda? Covering the city-owned land on the west side of the station. For more than 5 years, the city's owned 100 El Camino Real, and for about the same amount of time, there have been offers to assemble adjacent lots so that the city could develop maximum tax-generating revenue for use along El Camino Real. Instead, city officials have placed the community-owned parcels at the back of the line, behind Musi and behind Gateway, and now we've got to comply with the updated Surplus Land Act. This wouldn't have even been a factor if the staff hadn't missed the deadline at the end of last year. City staff submitted other properties at the time to be declared non-surplus, but failed to submit these valuable properties before the Surplus Land Act that was updated. That's a huge missed opportunity. We as a city have also wasted a lot of time. And
hey, Mayor, I hate to interrupt, but
go ahead, City Manager.
What he's talking about is under item 14. So
Okay.
I think that we should have a rule of order here, and the gentleman should wait for item 14.
Understood. I was just going to have you consider his comments when we get to agenda item 14.
Well, considering his comments would be part of the agenda discussion right now. So that's exactly why I'm raising this point of order that the gentleman needs to wait for item number 14.
Mr. Wong, if you could please come back to us in some time. Last agenda item.
Thank you.
Thank you. Danielle La Campagna.
Hi, my name is Daniela Campagna, and later you'll hear from Al Camole, a resident of Millbrae, but I'm from Citizens for a San Mateo County Gun Buyback. And that's the group that raises funds for participants to give for weapons at the gun buyback program. Our group is very proud of the success of the program and our collaboration with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, who advertises and handles all the other logistics of the buybacks, including supplying staff and security. The money that our group raises goes to giving out $100 for handguns, shotguns, and rifles, and $200 for assault weapons. At the 3 buybacks that we held in 2018 and 2019, we collected and later destroyed 1,254 firearms, and that included 53 assault weapons. And we made $125,700 in cash distributions. The buybacks are very well attended and valuable to our community based on the feedback that we received at the event and the surveys that we collected. There were lots of comments of appreciation for the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. And the buybacks are a community service to rid one's home of unwanted and unsecured firearms and to increase gun-free homes. And at the buybacks, we distribute free gun locks and education about gun safety, and suicide prevention. And we further buyback research, and 518 anonymous and voluntary surveys were completed in those 3 buybacks in 2018, 2019. And though we focus on suicide prevention, since suicide by firearm is 3.5 times more likely in San Mateo County than homicide by firearm, law enforcement has been very encouraged by the caliber and the number of assault weapons also turned in. Our group is here because we're working to replenish our funds, and we are quite thankful of Millbrae's contribution in 2018 of $5,000, which helped us get started in 2018. And we have a lofty goal right now of raising $123,700 to hold 4 buybacks in the next 2 to 3 years. And we're approaching cities in San Mateo County in the hope that they contribute $5,000 or more to help support the program. We are very fortunate to have matching funds from San Carlos, $45,000 of matching funds for cities that donate and promote the buybacks to their respective cities. So we really hope that you'll support the Sheriff's Office and citizens for a San Mateo County gun buyback. And we're happy to come back and present in a more formal way to the council about the buyback program in the future. And we're happy to answer questions. This is a limited forum, but we'd love to come back or talk to anyone about this. And thank you so much for your time, consideration, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Ms. La Campagna.
Thank you.
Susanna Prian. Hi, Susanna.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're coming in great.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Schneider, Vice Mayor, Council Member, all committee members. It's very nice to see you all on Zoom. I am Susanna Prian, and I am a resident of Millbrae over the last 10 years. And I'm a mother of 2 children, and I love this vibrant community. I want to thank you all for your hard work to make this city a desirable place to live. I'm here to follow up on an email request to you regarding a letter of support from the Millbrae Mayor's Office. This letter of support is for a rally at San Francisco on Saturday, July 17th, which calls for an end to the Chinese Communist Party, also called CCP's 22 years of persecution to the Falun Gong. Falun Gong is known as a traditional Buddhist-based meditation practice, and its core values are truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. At this point, you may ask, how is this related to the city of Millbrae? It matters. In fact, it matters to all cities. As you may know, there have been massive violations of human rights and the freedoms, genocide, and the crimes against humanity, the suppression of cultural, religious, and political identity in China. And sorry, I just all of a sudden lost my screen. Even since the launch, ever since the launch of the persecution, tens and thousands of Falun Gong members were arrested by the CCP purely because they were practicing their own beliefs. And these are the people who are ordinary citizens of China. They never harmed anyone. They were never a criminal, but they were arrested, imprisoned, and brutally tortured and killed for their vital organs. And there have been multiple separate independent reports talking or indicating tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of Falun Gong practitioners may have been killed to extract their vital organs. As a result, China's transplant system has the capacity to conduct over 50,000 or even to 90,000 transplants per year. And forced organ harvesting also is currently appearing targeting minorities such as Uyghurs, Tibetan Muslims, and underground Christians. Now today, more and more US policymakers have realized that the CCP is the #1 threat to America. A better understanding of Falun Gong story will help us better understand the threat from the CCP that we all face. So your letter of support will give hope to those still suffering in China. And it's also a moral expression of humanity.
Thank you, Ms. Prian. I have your email. I apologize. I will get back to you. Elaine, I don't see any other hands raised. Do you have anybody on the phone?
I do not, but I did receive an email from Al Kamoni requesting to speak. I'm not sure if he's still interested in speaking.
Okay, I see him on there, but maybe it's, he's just unmuted.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to say a few words on behalf of the San Mateo Gun Buyback Program. First of all, I want to thank the council and specifically City Clerk Tran for inviting us to say these few words. My wife and I have been proud residents of Millbrae for over 30 years, and we've been involved with this buyback program for the last 3 years. And it was very heartening to see the response we got from the 3 buybacks we did, the last one being in December of 2019. And to piggyback what Danielle was saying, we certainly appreciate the contribution that the city made in 2018. And we're just hoping that we can count on your support for this year going forward. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Kamali. Okay, any last chance? Anybody else? Public comment, items not on the agenda? I'm not seeing any hands raised. So closing public comment and moving on to consent calendar. Before I take a motion for consent calendar, I just want to make a statement on agenda item number 9. It includes a list of streets that the city might be doing repairs or maintenance work on them. One of them is the block that I live on. I have received FPPC as well as the city attorney's advice that I can vote on this because the road repair, I think it's a slurry seal, benefits all and isn't simply a benefit to my property. So I will not be pulling agenda item 9 off, and I have been told I can vote on that. So with that,
agenda item 9.
you want to pull agenda item 9? Very good. Okay, if I could have a motion for agenda items 5 through 8. And city manager already listed them off, but it's to receive and file the monthly general fund financial report for the period ending May 31st, the recreation center design and construction update, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of the 5th Amendment to the grant agreement to support Millbrae Community Television, and the 5th Amendment to the agreement for broadcasting, video, and channel management services by MCTV for a period of 1 year through June 30th, 2022. And agenda item 8, resolution approving the 7th Amendment to the agreement with Trent Sunahara Professional Services for strategic communication services for the period of 3 months through September 30th, 2021.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Fung. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Holober.
Quick question, please.
Please go ahead, Vice Mayor.
On item number 9 with the street repairs, for full transparency, I also live on Hacienda. That's listed there as well. But there's $452,000 worth of a grant. Is that grant cover everything, or is that just the grant?
Vice Mayor, would you mind hanging on to that because we pulled that from the consent?
Oh, I thought you did.
Yeah, no, Councilwoman Pappen asked for it to be pulled.
Perfect. I thought, sorry.
Very good. We'll come right back to it as soon as we vote. Any further discussion on agenda items 5, 6, 7, and 8, not 9?
Yeah, and 10,
I'm gonna get,
right?
I'm sorry, Ruben, I couldn't hear you.
And 10 as well.
No, 10
10
has,
10 has been pulled.
10 has been pulled, tabled to a future meeting. Thank you for the reminder. All right, Elaine, could you please call the vote for agenda items 5, 6, 7, and 8?
Sure. Councilmember Holober,
Aye.
Councilmember Fung,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Leva,
Aye.
Mayor Snyder.
Aye.
Consent items 5, 6, 7, and 8 is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, City Clerk. Staff, we're going to pull up agenda item number 9. If there is a staff report, if they could please get ready.
I don't think we need a full report, Madam Mayor. I have a requested amendment.
Okay, and just for the record then, City Clerk, both Vice Mayor Oliva and myself are on streets subjected to this, but we would both be under the same advice from City Attorney Castman that road repairs benefit all and are not a personal benefit. So go ahead, Councilwoman Pappen.
Yeah, I have a problem with city staff here on Corte del Sol. Street's already been started, and this, I mean, it's been like a decade in making this happen. I'd like an explanation from staff why it, depending on spending, will be pursued in the future. I mean, can't we just finish the project and be done with it? What's the story?
Yeah, so Key Lim can address the question, but that project was part of our 2021 budget. So within this fiscal year, that included a water main upgrade as well as the street repair and street pave reconstruction of that particular street. So Mr. Key Lim, our Public Works Director.
Yes, thank you, City Manager Williams, Millbrae's Mayor and City Council. Corte del Sol is actually in current year fiscal year budget. That's why you don't see them in the fiscal year 2021 resolution. This is for next fiscal year. And Corte del Sol is scheduled for paving in the next couple of weeks or so, actually.
Well, so I just don't like the way it's described here. You're describing it as a maybe.
Let's see. Are you looking at the table, Councilwoman Pappen?
Yes, I am.
Let's see. Which table are you looking at?
Table 2, paragraph 1, sentence 2. Depending on spending, Corte del Sol can also be added.
I am not catching that. If that is the case, and my apology, that is a mistake. It shouldn't be included. Corte del Sol was added in the 2021 fiscal year's resolution last year, not this year. My apology.
So if we remove that sentence, I can move approval, hoping that that street will be finally completed in the next few weeks. I will move approval, this item.
Thank you, Councilman Pappen. Vice Mayor Oliva, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I just have one quick question here. With regards to the monies that for the grants, the monies are in the amount of $452,538. But what's the cost of the projects?
The cost of the project for next fiscal year is totaling about $2 million. The 452 is actually under SB1 funding. This is an allocation as part of the gas tax. And on top of that, we also receive in excess of $600,000 in highway user tax. And that would total a little over $1 million for just on the gas tax fund. And on top of that, we also have Measure A, Measure W, and Prop 42 funding, as well as general fund. So for fiscal year 21-22, the total street program, as we presented to council in early June 8, I believe, was $2 million total. And this is funding about 1/4 of the program under SB1.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much.
Yeah, if I may, real quick, Vice Mayor, on that. So it takes approximately $4 million a year to maintain and then improve our PCI by 5 points a year. So this is heavily subsidized by our general fund. So just that's the fiscal reality of it.
Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to hear. So
thank you, City Manager, and thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Works Director Lim, he gave me some talking points for the CCAG meeting last week, where we were looking at the CCAG budget for 2021-2022. Mr. Lim, thank you. I brought those issues up over the dispersal of funds from Measure A and Measure M or Measure W in terms of actual street usage. So the base formula for what cities get based on the number of miles of roads and population, but that they begin to look at road usage as compared to roads that don't really have any cars driving on them. As part of the future funding, their plan is to take 5 years to look at the data for that. But the actual budget item will come back to CCAG at our July meeting. So thank you for that, Key. Okay, there is a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. That was Councilman Holabird.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion for agenda item number 9? If not, Elaine, or City Clerk, could you please give us a vote for the resolution to adopt a list of projects for fiscal year 2021 and 2022 to be funded by Senate Bill 1, the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017.
Councilmember Halliburtt,
Aye.
Councilmember Councilmember Fung,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Leva.
Aye.
Mayor Snyder.
Aye.
The City Council approved a resolution adopting a list of projects for fiscal year 2021 to 2022 funded by SB1 with amendment to remove verbiage depending on spending. Corte del Sol can also be added by the vote of 5-0.
Thank you, City Clerk. Agenda item number 10 has been pulled from tonight's agenda and will return at a future council meeting based on new information that has come in. We are now moving agenda item 12, review and discussion of the Millbrae Chamber of Commerce's Art and Wine Festival plans. And I believe that the Chamber of Commerce has a PowerPoint presentation. Very
Mayor,
good.
if I may just give a couple of opening remarks here.
Please do, City Manager.
So as a council, move forward as a go decision to have the Art and Wine Festival at their last meeting of June 8th. They had also directed questions to the Chamber of Commerce. And as you mentioned, the director and I believe her vendor are here this evening to answer those questions. But what I wanted to communicate is that staff did meet with the Chamber of Commerce last week to get more information and prepare for tonight's meeting, as well as the ad hoc subcommittee of the City Council, which was made up of Vice Mayor Oliva and Councilmember Pappen, also met as a subcommittee to hear information from the Chamber of Commerce and the selected vendor. And so that's just wanted to give the council the background that we did do several meetings with them to prepare for this evening. And after the presentation, we'd be happy to also answer any questions that the City Council may have.
Thank you, City Manager. With that, Millbrae Chamber of Commerce CEO Lorianne Richardson, are you ready?
I'm right here.
Okay, and you're coming in, your sound's coming in good.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
It's at your leisure.
Oh, well, this is just obviously very basic, but there is often confusion, even among members. What is a Chamber of Commerce and what do they exactly do? Everybody knows they are a business organization. We're a nonprofit business association, and we promote, advocate for, represent, and bring our members together through many of the events that you see throughout the year. And America's had chambers of commerce since 1768, and they are found all over the world in virtually every city. Chamber members pay annual dues to belong to the Chamber of Commerce. Those dues support the Chamber's program of work. Chamber members are a mix of our business owners, community organizations, and we also have individual members that are just Millbrae residents and want to support the mission of the Chamber and enjoy coming to our events. Chambers provide introductions. We introduce members at events and also via email or phone, and we get requests. People might call and say, is there a way they could meet so-and-so in the community? And we make that happen. And it gives business owners visibility. They can network and grow, talk to each other, air their mutual concerns, and chamber events are great for doing that. And that's it for that slide. And what do chambers do for their community? Well, you've probably seen a lot of events, and maybe you do or don't know that the Chamber is a sponsor, producer, and or host of those events, some of them being the Business After 5 Networking Mixers, Millbrae Excellence in Business Awards, where we honor 7 different categories of awards are bestowed upon very deserving business owners in Millbrae. And one of our favorite things to do is to delight an unsuspecting business owner with an award for the excellent and long-term work they've done in the community. That's always at City Council chambers. So if you do get a chance to tune into Business Awards, I would highly recommend it so that you can learn in depth about some of the businesses that you've been doing business with for a long time. We do the Multi-Chamber Business Expo, that's in South San Francisco at the Convention Center, the Millbrae State of the City Address, the State of the County, which is done by the North County Chambers this way and north, San Mateo County's Progress Seminar, which is a 3-day event, and all the chambers co-sponsor that, and it's put on by the Redwood City Chamber. The Millbrae Man, Woman, and Student of the Year Awards, a wonderful event, and that is coming back live in person this October. And so we'll be at Green Hills Country Club on October 15th, I believe. The annual holiday tree lighting celebration at City Hall, where the whole town is invited, and we do everything from Christmas carols to having a Santa Claus and photo opportunities and lots of nice performances from Millbrae Youth and St. Dunstan Choir. It's really a lot of fun. That will be back as well. We did virtual tree lighting last year. Very happy to say it will be in person this year. The Millbrae Japanese Culture Festival, for which we're the financial agent. So we do take in the applications for that festival, and it's done by the Millbrae Japanese Culture Festival Committee chaired by Kathleen Kimura, and they do a wonderful job. That too is coming back live this October. I believe that's Sunday, October 3rd. The Millbrae Art and Wine Festival, canceled also for 2020, is coming back live for Labor Day weekend, September 4th and 5th. Has the Chamber always produced the Millbrae Art and Wine Festival? I got asked that question quite a bit recently. The Millbrae Chamber founded the Art and Wine Festival in 1970 as a means for the Chamber to be self-supporting. The 2021 festival is our 50th anniversary. And as mentioned, we had to cancel last year for the pandemic. So to date, the Chamber has produced 49 very successful art and wine festivals. And yes, even our 27 heat wave year made money for us. It was actually 16K more, I delved into our records, than our 2016 festival, despite that brutal 105-degree heat. We were just sad that the heat cause people not to go 2, 3, 4 times around. They would kind of do a pass and a half and leave because of the heat, but our volunteers stuck it out. It was still a great festival. How does the community benefit from the Millbrae Art and Wine Festival? Broadway businesses that do remain open on festival weekend, because some of them do close, they enjoy increased foot traffic, obviously, and an uptick in their business. The 16 Mile House always refers to festival weekend as their Christmas due to the increase in their bar revenue, which if you pass by the 16 Mile House during Art and Wine, you see that it is jam-packed and really very lively that weekend. Sweet Indulgence, the ice cream shop with the pretty purple exterior, their owner Karen says festival weekend gives them their biggest sales of the year. And she said they really make a thing of it, a celebration. They book a hotel room across the street for employees, and they just have a booming business inside their shop all weekend. Walgreens and Safeway get large upticks in their foot traffic and business. And, you know, those are a few examples. We don't have room to list everybody, but when businesses make more sales, that's very important to the city. The city gets more sales tax revenue, and sales tax revenue in Millbrae benefits our community by funding vital city services. So that is why you'll always hear the chamber say, if you can, please buy it in Millbrae, whatever it is. It all adds up and it really makes a difference. So if you can take a trip downtown instead of to Amazon on your keyboard, we all really appreciate that. Which community organizations has the Millbrae Art and Wine Festival funded? It's a long list, far longer than I could ever put on a slide. These are many of the recent. We have the Millbrae Leo's Club, Mills High School Interact Club, Mills High School American Red Cross Club, the YES Red Cross Team, Mills High School Key Club, Mills High School Latina Mentor Program, Mills High School Academic Decathlon Team, Cub Scout Pack 355, Boy Scout Troop 355, and many other groups over the decades have participated. We do a program where they get to be in a water booth and decorate that up to represent their club or organization. And they have tip jars out there. It's the students do that. We provide the water and they go home with funds for their club or team. We also feature Millbrae businesses and nonprofits only in our festival volunteer booths. Those booths allow them to promote their organizations. They can decorate the booth any way they want, hang up, put out their information, get in front of thousands of people, and really be seen that weekend, and they have fun. How can I contact the Millbrae Chamber of Commerce? So these are our email addresses and ways to get a hold of us. For general information, you can send email to millbraechamber@millbrae.com. For questions about our festival, including festival sponsorships, please email festival@millbrae.com. My office email is lrichardson@millbrae.com. To apply to our 2021 Millbrae Art and Wine Festival, please email Terry Allier of California Artists. That's CAARTISTS, so that's a double A in there, @earthlink.net. And this is our address and phone number. And thank you for letting me go over that. And thank you, City Clerk, for putting this slideshow up.
Thank you, CEO Richardson. With that, Council, do we have comments? Councilwoman Pappen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Oops, sorry. Thank you. Yes, so for the media or the Daily Journal that's watching, the City Council agreed last time that the Art and Wine Festival was going forward. We want to be very, very clear at that with that information. So I have a question regarding the what do you call it here? Your attachment. It says festival beverages, booth sales on festival weekend. How does that work? Is that just the rental of a booth, or how is that funding arrived?
That's the festival alcohol sales in the 5 booths that we have in the festival. So that's the projection for alcohol sales and for booth fees. Yes, space fees as we call them. And yeah, so everything that there is a fee.
In those booths, you're providing the wine as well? You're providing the alcohol?
For the sales in the festival, yes.
Okay, so this is part of the discussion. Just to clarify here, all the lovely things that were just described in the presentation, the reason we are here and the reason the council is concerned is that during COVID, as many businesses were struggling, none of these events really occurred, and we had heard from many businesses that they were not able to get in touch with the chamber, and we didn't hear anything from the chamber until we brought this up to the city council level here. We all are in agreement that we want this Art and Wine Festival to be just as successful and moving forward, and it was a pleasure for the subcommittee to talk to Terry from the California Arts Group, and sounds very well established there. We still have heard from businesses that they have not been contacted by the chamber here. Council members, myself included, and the city manager have reached out to local businesses already about incorporating them more so into the Art and Wine Festival, which hasn't been done before. So we have discussed actually reaching out to some of the businesses with the Economic Vitality Committee, helping some of the businesses leverage their business opportunity during the upcoming Art and Wine Festival. The city representatives also suggested some new sponsors. Now, the city is going after some of these sponsors here. So we want to talk here because, we're doing that for the benefit of the city. So we would like to separate out, if the city brings in a sponsor, that the city, whether they designate it to the recreation center or downtown business, that money goes directly to the city in our economic recovery efforts here.
Yeah, you could do that. Definitely.
Because
I'm sorry, question, Gina, Councilwoman Pappen. So if the city is going out looking for sponsors for the Chamber Art and Wine Festival, or the city is going out looking for sponsors for rebuilding the rec center?
The city is going out looking for sponsors for the Art and Wine Festival, which is a city event as well. And those would be new sponsors that we would bring in to profile during the Art and Wine Festival for the mayor's benefit. Sponsors that come into the festival are large contributors to the funding of the festival. So we're trying to distinguish here. If the city's going after specific sponsors, they bring them in, that money goes to benefit the city. Is that clear?
No, please do not treat me like a child. So for in the past, Living Spaces, one of our larger businesses, has been a funder of the chamber. But if the city got to the Living Spaces and Living Spaces said, sure, then the chamber would not be able to approach them.
I don't know where we.
I think Ms. Pappen was saying something different. That's our glassware sponsor. So I think that's not affected by that. But I think what Ms. Councilwoman Pappen was saying was if the city themselves proactively goes after and brings in a sponsor, and it happens to be a large sponsor, that they keep the money to go towards the rebuilding of our rec center and other things. And so that's how, as I understood it.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's as I understood it. Yeah. But thank you, Madam Mayor.
Similarly, we have talked to, there's been discussions with one of our regular businesses, Pape Meats. They would like to maybe bring out a smoke grill for this event. Bacchus Wine has talked about actually setting up. So these are new aspects we hope that will really revitalize and make this Art and Wine Festival even better than before. So this would be a different aspect of serving alcohol, because we would hope that somebody like Bacchus could actually sell cases of wine during the event. So we are trying to enhance the efforts here, bringing everybody together. I think we are all headed in the right direction here. One thing that you did not mention, Lorianne, was the play field, the children's stuff that's not in your report here.
So the kids zone, well, actually, we do have a verbal on that. So we just need the final commitment. It's done by Classic Amusements, and he has a Napa event coming up and several other things after July 4th. He's willing to give the contractual commitment, but
Okay,
he wants to do it.
I didn't see it on your attachment here. So that was
that out. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to be clear for the listening public that will also be returning as an event.
Yes, trying super hard to get that. And to that, it looks like we may or may not be able to have a petting zoo this year, just so people know. The one that has always done it appears to have gone out of business due to the pandemic, due to COVID. So they've been unreachable. And several they've tried, and the lovely Bronzini Dental Office always sponsors that for us, and it's a wonderful thing. So, and there was a concern expressed that since children are still unvaccinated, so, you know, there's that consideration. So that is one change that could happen, is perhaps no Sunday petting zoo.
Okay,
Saturday petting zoo.
I think we can, by discussing it in this public forum, might be able to find another one to assist in that endeavor, because I do know the kids love it. The children of the group. So we are working together here, and look forward to moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Vice Mayor Oliva.
Thank you. So yeah, I want to reiterate the press here, anybody that's taking notes, that this is going to be like a huge event for the city of Millbrae. We are going to be open, and as much press as the San Mateo County Fair got, I think that the Millbrae Art and Wine Festival should get. We are ready to come together, whatever it takes, and I appreciate everybody rolling up their sleeves here. Lorianne, I have petting zoo. If you need a name, I happen to be having one for an event in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. I'm looking too. The problem was that it's always sponsored by Bronzini Dental, and Dr. Nick is wonderful, and they're just concerned about having one at all because of the children. So, but thank you. I would love the name. Thank you for that.
I'll hook you up with, if it happens, fantastic.
And I will pass that on. Thank you.
And then secondly, Council Member Pappen, I see your sentiment with regards to our rec center, and I would 100% agree that we definitely need to get sponsorship for our rec center. But if you looked at the long list of what the chamber has given to the numerous Mills events, I'm hoping that possibly that this could be a home run hit out of the park, and the chamber would gratefully and humbly give some of those proceeds to our rec center, because that is what we're going to help them make. So with regards to putting our name on a sponsorship, I don't want to compete. I want to create camaraderie. And I would like all of us, all 5 of us, to get out there and help get sponsorships and have our community come together. And I think that the chamber is fully aware that our rec center needs sponsor. We need money. We need money. So if in fact we could all come together and get everybody to participate, it's a win-win for all. I don't feel like I want to compete and put my name or race to the hierarchies who could write the checks for us. I really want this to be successful, and I'm going to do whatever it is to support this. And as I said in the subcommittee, I'm more than willing to go door to door and help with the businesses that we have that survived through this last 18 months of hell. And hopefully everybody will prosper from this. So thanks for getting this together, come hell or high water, for lack of a better term. I appreciate it. And I'm going to hope that this is like, are we gonna?
I apologize, Vice Mayor. I don't know where the tinging is coming from.
Oh, what? I don't know what you're talking about.
I've got something's tinging. My apologies. Keep going.
So I just want to let known that, you know, like, yeah, it's great to ruffle, but we all have the same cause. So let's come together and let's get this to be the biggest event in San Mateo County that we can.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Other council comments, and if you want to, please raise your hands. If not, I'll open it up for public comment.
Madam Mayor, could I ask a question? I believe California artist Mr. Terry Allier is on, and wondering if he wanted to make a comment or not.
Yes.
Please go ahead, Mr. Allier. Oh, hold on. Let me have Councilman Fung go, and Councilman Holober, and then we'll come back to you. Sorry, Mr. Allier.
Okay.
We will get to you.
That's fine.
Councilman Fung.
Thank you, Mayor.
I just wanted to make a comment about, as far as to the inquiring public, the chamber is a 501c6 organization, so it's a nonprofit organization. So their financial is filed with the state every year as a matter of public record. And so I just want to make sure that it is clear on the record here. And I'm so glad to see the chamber and this new vendor is able to put a plan together and hold our 50th edition of the Art and Wine Festival. We all look so forward to seeing that and having everybody out in the streets of Millbrae again and be able to collaborate and be able to see people's faces and have a good time in the summer. And so with that, also, I think big hands to the subcommittee and thanks to Ms. Richardson working with our EVAC as well as our subcommittee to putting this plan together, and a great comment on the sponsorship. We certainly can use the sponsorship and we have a lot of services here that is going to be able to benefit from the donation and putting in light of what has been happening in the last pandemic, that now finally it's coming to an end. We certainly can use the benefit of these donations to help move the rec center forward. And this is certainly a great platform to do it. So I'd like to thank the subcommittee and chamber for putting this together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Fung. Councilman Holabir, I don't want to put you on the spot, but before I open for public comment,
Sure, I can speak.
you're coming in very vaguely, at least on my end.
Is that better?
That's perfect.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Ms. Richardson and Mr. Ollie for working on this and putting this together. I think, frankly, we've kind of made a mountain out of a molehill here by pushing this to a second council meeting. But, I think this is a good plan. I know the chamber has done an excellent job pulling this event off each year. I think if there are other concerns regarding the chamber, that's for a different discussion. I don't think those should leak into the Art and Wine Festival discussion. I think if council members would like to, on their own time, solicit sponsorships, I think that's fine. That being said, I would really discourage our city staff from putting much time and effort into working on this event. I think we have a lot greater priorities right now that will take a lot of staff time. We're facing litigation. We might be facing more litigation soon. We have some developments that we're trying to get approved around the transit center, and we're trying to make sure that the rec center gets built on time and on budget. And I think devoting any of the city manager's time or any of our staff time into this event is not a good use of time. And again, I would encourage the chamber to take the keys from you. But if anybody wants to help in a volunteer capacity, I think that is more than welcome.
Thank you, Councilman Holabir. Mr. Allier, I know that you have been hard at work for some time now. Would you like to add where we're at? And then I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Well, I think the subcommittee meeting that we had just recently really helped make me understand that we can do this, that, everybody's on board. I put out the applications only literally 5 days ago, and I already have response for, I think right now, up to 75 people. They haven't sent in their application, but the main thing is how quickly the word got out, and they're really excited. They have asked for their same spots, and I said I'm going to do very much my diligent to accommodate everybody, including people that are not on my list. As I told in the subcommittee, that anybody that is contacting the city to send them to me, I'm going to make this open for everybody, because I want it to be a successful and a good experience that, as you say, that we kind of come back from, the dark ages of the pandemic. I'm really excited because, like I say, the response has been really good. I've also stated with the subcommittee that I'm basically using the same site plan because it just makes it very easy, especially this year, I'm not going to reinvent something, but I'm going to work very hard with Lorianne about, layouts and stuff with sponsors and where the booths are, so that I physically, understand what's going on. But I'm really on board to make this, as said, that this needs to be the best this year in the county, especially since I live here too. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And I want to say thank you to both Lorianne Richardson and to Terry Allier. We also met, and I feel really confident in the direction. One of the things that makes our Art and Wine Festival so special is the community component of it. The youth groups getting to raise money. The Lions, for example, we pour beer. It's one of my favorite activities at the Beer Grove. So, and Mr. Allier has that same approach of bringing the community in. So I think you're going to be a lovely new addition to the City of Millbrae and the Chamber of Commerce. So Lorianne and Terry, hang tight. I do see the first of our public to speak, opening up for public comment. We are at 8:45 with a few more items. I know we started late, but you do not have to speak for 3 minutes, but you have 3 minutes. Thank you. Kathleen, go ahead.
Yes, first of all, I'd just like to thank Lorianne and thank the council for all coming together on this. And I have to say that our Millbrae Japanese Culture Festival committee is so appreciative of the chamber, and we will be looking forward to be out there at the Art and Wine Festival with a little booth and promoting our event, which will be exactly 1 month after the festival. And we too will be, I've already started looking out for sponsors also. It's going to be a different experience this year, but still I'm confident that we should get some sponsors, and I'm looking forward to reaching out to the community. I've already started sending out applications to performers and vendors and sponsors. So we're looking forward to having a very happy summer in Millbrae, and thank you all for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Kimura, and thank you and your committee for everything you do with the Japanese Cultural Festival. Oops. I have a call-in user. If you could unmute yourself and please give your name. The city clerk needs it for the minutes. I see your hand raised. I don't see, oh, I believe that's former Mayor Marge Colapietro. Go ahead, Ms. Colapietro.
Yes, this is Marge. Hello?
Please go ahead. You're coming in loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. I was at first just a comment and regarding the conversation about the sponsors. The city and the chamber may wish to, and please don't put this in my 3 minutes. And then when you're talking about sponsorships and who's going to get this for that, I think it's maybe smart for the chamber to put a list of who they have for these years gotten sponsorships from, so that they're not duplicated by the city, and there won't be any kinds of arguments, when everything is said and done. So I served 2 terms on the Millbrae Council of the Millbrae Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I was a business member and became a resident member, and have served 24 years in the total as a member. I'm speaking with sincere gratitude to our Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors for providing our community with 50 years of the absolutely best art and wine festivals in the Bay Area. Most of those 50 years attracted over 100,000 guests over 2 days to our city. Congratulations to you and your generous volunteers. Now, Lorianne listed every single thing that I was going to list that they do in addition to the Art and Wine Festival for our community. So those things make Millbrae visible and Millbrae businesses visible. And I just wanted to also interject, you may not know that while managing the chamber, Lorianne took a 3-year program offered by the Western Academy Chamber Executives. The focus was in-depth chamber management skills. She graduated and was bestowed with the prestigious Wace Academy Graduate Certificate. I asked Lorianne why she did this, and she said so she could be a better chamber leader. So I ask this evening, please let the chamber continue to do what they do best, the Art and Wine Festival. That isn't a job description for the city council to take over. Not saying that you were going to do that, but I think the city council has a lot more important things to do. And the heart of the Millbrae Chamber of Commerce is evident.
Mayor, if I may jump in here, Mayor,
is
time is up, and to be fair and protocol for everyone else, I think 3 minutes and time is up.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. Thank you, former Mayor Colapietro. Thank you for your comments. Looking for any other hands raised. Elaine, do you have anybody on the phone?
There's a Julia that raised her hand.
Okay, Julia, if you could please go. And if anyone else wants to comment, please raise your hand now so we can time it out. Thank you.
And Julia, if I get your full name, please. Thank you.
Julia Gauchi. I am a Millbrae resident, teacher, and business owner also in Millbrae. I did have one question. It might be a separate question, but I wanted to know the number of vendors that would be coming to this. I have another income, so I don't know if I should be applying. I don't want to take away a spot from somebody who that is their sole income. So I'm questioning whether or not I should be applying for one of the vendor positions. I'm very excited to hear that the Chamber of Commerce is going to continue running this. The city is going to be supporting the chamber, and also that the individual businesses are going to be able to set things outside. Like I had heard Councilwoman Pappen say something about Pape Meats coming out of and the wine, and I forget what that one's called, the wine business, that they will be able to come out more and sell their wares outside of their businesses. I know it's also very heavy on traffic, and so sometimes vendors, store owners decide to close their doors. And I'm wondering if there are, vendors at every other location that maybe more of these businesses on Broadway will consider having tables outside of their door, or whatever it would take to entice people to enter into their businesses. Excuse me. And I also like the idea of some way getting the sponsorships to show people supporting. And I'd like to know, just as a resident, how can I support it? What can I do? Do I make posters? Do I make signs? Do I create confetti balloons? I mean, what can I do as a citizen of Millbrae?
Thank you, Julia. Hang on to that. I've got your questions when we close public comment. Any additional questions from the public? Any comments from the public? I am not seeing any. Elaine, still no one on the phone?
I do not, but this is your last chance to raise your hand. If you are calling in, please press *9. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anything. So with that, Marge, I'm sorry, you've already spoken, but please send your comments to Lorianne. I'm sure she will follow up with everything. Thank you for your comments. Closing public comment period and bringing it back to City Council. I have a question, Lorianne, from Julia. She had a couple of questions. Yes. Are there going to be more vendor spaces? Tell us what people should do if they want to have a booth.
Yes, and first of all, to Julia, thank you for that lovely supportive comment. And we would love to have you. Of course, there will be space for you. And yes, you should definitely apply. That was very thoughtful to think that perhaps that booth space should go to someone whose sole income might be as an artist or a crafter. And that is true in many cases, that a lot of them support themselves solely with these events, thus complete devastation in 2020. However, we're going to do the full festival route. So we will have, we should have space for everyone. So I would encourage Julia to go ahead and apply. And as far as helping, and that was very cute, posters and things like that, if we have an email address for her, I'd be more than happy to follow up with Julia.
Lorianne, I think she brings up a good point. A lot of us at the council level, we're already affiliated with community groups, so I know exactly where I'm slotting in for my 4 or 5 shifts. But if you're just a person of Millbrae who's not a Lion or Rotarian or Friends of Millbrae Library, how can they get involved? And then they get to meet people.
Right. So, well, you know, if you remember the slide, you can email me at lrichardson@millbrae.com. Millbrae.com is our website. So that part's very easy to remember. And it's just my first initial last name, L. Richardson. You can send that email. And also, you know, I'll try to get the information. But yes, we do encourage the public. You know, I often we call them individual volunteers. That is someone not affiliated with a business, not with a group in Millbrae, but just wants to help with the festival. So we keep a list. And then if we need people for something, or maybe somebody couldn't make it from a group, we use the individual volunteers, and they're always really wonderful and eager to help out. So looking for that. If anyone in the community wants to be involved, this would be the year.
Excellent. I do see a new hand raised. It is Economic Vitality Advisory Committee members. We've already closed public comment. City Manager, should I allow her to comment?
I'll look to our city attorney just in terms
Joan,
of.
if not, Ms. Fung, I'm sorry, you kind of missed your raising of the hand. City Manager.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So, there's Joan. Thank you, city attorney.
You know, this is not like a public hearing. I would give her an opportunity to comment.
Okay. Thank you, city attorney. Ms. Fung, one of the members of our Economic Vitality Advisory Committee. Please go ahead. Margaret, can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay
now? Now you're great.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members. As a member of Economic Vitality Committee, we've actually been recently talked to merchants in downtown, and I did mention about Art and Wine Festival. Some of the bilingual merchants, they're very excited that this is going to be opening up to the local merchants. And I would like to ask that the chamber would provide a multi-language flyer so that we could help promote your event to local vendors. Some of them don't speak English as their primary language. So it would be great if you could have perhaps second language such as Chinese and Spanish on your flyer so that we could help promote your event to the local vendors. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent, excellent point there. Okay, with that, again, closing public comment period. Council, any further discussion? This is an action item. I'm not exactly sure how to phrase the action of it other than to give our blessing. But if there is a council member who has that, with that, City Manager, I need advice. We already gave them permission to go ahead. They're already working. They will have to come back to us in July for a permit. Can we continue this action item to the next agenda? Okay, so this really isn't an action item. This was more a discussion, informational. I'm looking at you, Joan.
Correct.
It appears. Tom?
I was going to say, yes, unless there's any other questions or direction of the city council, I think the council did make the decision to move forward.
Right.
And if you're satisfied with the information that was presented to the Chamber of Commerce and answering the questions, we can move forward.
Excellent. Council, any other questions? Raise your hand or wave me. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close this agenda item and move to the other item that was requested by the public. This is agenda item number 13. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on hyper mode. Chamber of Commerce, thank you. Good luck. You know that I'm here to help you in any way possible with whatever hats I am wearing. So go forth, do good. And to the members of the public, I am sure many of our groups could use your help, from MCTV, who sends out film crews, to the people manning the beer and wine and glass sale booths. Please contact Lorianne. Thank you. And Terry Allier and California Artists, welcome to the city of Millbrae.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor
Okay.
Ann.
Take care. You guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 13. This is an informational report on the reopening of city facilities. This is informational. Tom Williams, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and members of the City Council. Tom Williams, City Manager. Just real quick, this is a information and status report on the physical reopening of City Hall. If you can move to the next slide, please. City facilities, well, let me start by saying, what a year and a half, obviously, and everybody knows that, but I would like to acknowledge our employees, of course, the City Council, Planning Commission, our other commissioners and committee members that have worked on behalf of this city to keep things moving. We've made adjustments, but we as a city really haven't skipped the beat. We've got our recreation center moving. We've got development projects moving. We invested in different software to where development applications and people that were remodeling their homes could continue to conduct business with the city. So I would just like to acknowledge everyone out there for the great work and the quick pivoting that they did during this most unusual year. So thank you for that. And if we can go to the next slide. Well, let me say this too. I mean, I guess a lot of information of the community is that I want to reiterate that City Hall was open. We just weren't open to the public. So again, we were conducting business. So I think if some people think that we were not open and employees were sitting at home getting paid, that just isn't true. We were here every day making sure that, water flowed, sewers worked, streets were maintained and paved, and development projects were moving forward. And our recreation department did a great job over the last year keeping programs and camps and daycare services up and running. And as of today, I think as the council knows, physically, we are open in our recreation center. Our day camps have been moving forward. We've had extreme demand. So in that area of the city, we are moving full speed ahead. So next slide, please. So on June 18th, Cal OSHA did amend their COVID-19 emergency temporary standards. These did take effect immediately. Also, the governor lifted many of the stay-at-home orders and retired the county tier system. And most all of the mandates were lifted across the state. And the blueprint for a safer economy and tier system again, were retired. Go next slide, please. The one thing I would like to say is with Cal OSHA having their directives that were a little bit adverse to what the governor's directive was, the governor did come in and fast track some of the Cal OSHA standards, so they did not have to wait for the legal period of time. But with that, so what has changed? So based on the emergency temporary standards that were approved on June 17th by OSHA, there are no face covering requirements indoors for fully vaccinated employees, but employers must document their employees' vaccination status. Now, this can be through verbal, employees can self-attest that they have been vaccinated or not. So this is one of the ways that we can determine if employees have been vaccinated. There are no face cover requirements for outdoors except during outbreaks, regardless of vaccine status. I have been doing a little bit of research, haven't received anything yet officially from our county medical officer, Dr. Morrow. And most all of you may know that we're now dealing with this heightened awareness of the Delta variant, which seems to be a faster moving, more highly contagious variant of the coronavirus. So we're not really out of the woods yet, but as we move forward, still under the governor's order and Cal OSHA, fully vaccinated employees without symptoms then do not need to be tested or quarantined any longer after close contact with COVID-19 cases, unless they do have symptoms. Physical distancing and barriers are no longer required except during outbreaks. but employers must, as I said, provide all unvaccinated employees with respirators, N95 face masks for voluntary use. And then masks, again, are not required if everyone in the room inside is fully vaccinated and they do not possess any COVID-19 symptoms. So if there's a mixture of vaccinated and unvaccinated persons in a room, only the unvaccinated people are required to wear a face covering, not the vaccinated people. Next slide, please. So employers, as I mentioned, we're now shouldering the responsibility to identify and evaluate all COVID-19 hazards within the workplace, implement a screening process, conduct our workplace specific identifications of areas and activities that possess or that can be potentially dangerous or expose employees or the public, for that matter, to COVID-19 hazards. And we have to implement effective policies for correcting unsafe or unhealthy conditions, work practices, policies, and procedures. Now, this is all as we open up, and we continue to monitor. And again, Governor Gavin Newsom did sign Executive Order N-0921, expediting the Cal OSHA revised COVID-19 regulations that we're currently under today. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just share with you what we have found out from neighboring cities. Again, this is still a gray area as we open up, and I think it was easier to shut down than it is to open up because everything is gray. But our priority is the public and our employees. And as we move forward, and I provide my recommendations here in a few minutes, that's really what we're after here is safety of our employees and of our public. But Burlingame is planning to open up their city hall the day after Labor Day. So that's Tuesday, September 7th. Hillsborough, all facilities will be reopening beginning July 1st, but no large gatherings in the council chambers, no meetings, classes, community events. All facilities will completely reopen with in-person council meetings September 1st, 2021. San Bruno continues to open with walk-in appointments. A target is unknown for their full opening of their city hall at this time. South San Francisco, the city hall facility remains closed and the target date is unknown. But other programs, their library, their recreation services are open, very similar to the city of Millbrae. Their employees are, do continue on a modified work schedule. It's a little bit different because here in Millbrae, our employees have been here full time. We have had staggered schedules. Some people have worked at home, but for the most part, everybody has been in the office. San Mateo and Redwood City, they're phasing employees back to work that have been working remotely. They plan to fully reopen September 1st. San Mateo does kind of have a hybrid appointment system where if they do have walk-in customers, they're kept outside. And they have an employee that manages the crowd and will take time slots of people waiting outside to enter city hall, city facilities. And then San Mateo County itself, the employees return to work on June 15th with modified schedules, and they're rotating 2 days in office and 2 days from home. Some facilities and services are open to the public. Other services, such as their building and planning department, are only open by appointment currently. Next slide. So our recommendation is that we open City Hall initially by appointment, commencing Monday, June 28th. That's next Monday. We've worked with all the department heads that if we move forward this evening with that reopening by appointment, that there is a clear phone number that the public can contact for planning and building and finance and engineering and public works and recreation. Staff will continue to follow the city's policies and procedures that we have implemented and communicated to our employees to follow all of the face covering guidelines, health screening protocols, frequent cleaning and sanitation of all work areas, and we'll just continue to closely follow and monitor the directives from Cal OSHA and CDC. And then we recommend that we begin in-person city council meetings in September. The first meeting of the city council is September 14th, with in-person city commission and committee meetings commencing thereafter. So the first first physical opening of official city meetings will be the council meeting of September 14th, then followed by committee and commission meetings. So that is our recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know our city attorney, Joan Castman, has been following this with her legal staff and may have some additional information on directives and some of the gray areas. But again, we're making this recommendation, keeping everybody as healthy and safe as possible with the information that we have received to date.
Thank you, City Manager, and to the City Manager and to staff. I can personally vouch, I'm sure all of council can, to the number of hours that Tom and our administrative staff have put in, all of our staff, and to all of our staff who've been out in the street when we didn't know how easy or difficult COVID would transmit. It has been an amazing year and a half. And I am so grateful, City Manager, that we have you and all of our staff for this. So thank you for that.
Sorry, one other thing I forgot to mention, that all of our full-time employees in City Hall have been vaccinated. We have one that was vaccinated, and that employee is awaiting their second vaccination, which will take place in a week and a half. So the good news is all of our employees in City Hall have been vaccinated.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And that is great news. With that, City Council, I see that we've got comments. Vice Mayor Oliva.
Yeah, just a little curious here for the September council meeting, September 14th, I think it was. Do people that show up have to show proof of vaccine, and is our whole entire council vaccinated? And what about the option of the Zoom?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that is kind of the gray area. So if we take the governor's directive, then we can open up the meeting. No masks are required. People can wear masks. We're precautionary. We're not going to tell anybody you can't wear a mask. In terms of determining if somebody's vaccinated or not, a verbal communication or a verbal response that they say they're vaccinated. Joan, correct me if I'm wrong, but under the guidelines of the governor are acceptable. So we won't ask for doctor's verification or even the vaccination card that everybody receives. Now people can volunteer that. We actually have a form that we've asked our employees to fill out, asking them, if they're vaccinated or not. So that's how we're monitoring it. But the public itself, we've been kicking things around. As you know, we do have a monitor that people can put their forehead on as they enter the room to see if they have a temperature or not. We'll probably continue to implement that, Vice Mayor, until we know for sure and get the medical advice that in the first meeting of the council or any of our committee and commission meetings, somebody has a fever, then we probably won't let them attend.
Yeah,
there's a lot of gray area and legal,
Yeah, the gray area for me is like we are advertising. We're basically saying it by opening the doors. We're welcoming. It's not like a festival that people make the decision to come, but we're a public entity that is like welcoming people to participate. So why are we entering the gray area? Why wouldn't we wait for public meetings until everything's clean and clear?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that this is a great discussion for the council to have this evening and move forward with a policy based on some of the feedback that I've received. And again, looking at the safety of the public and our employees and commission members, city council. Personally, I will say I'm in no hurry because we have been operating at a high level. People have not been, banging down the door, asking to come into City Hall. I kind of think if it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm making this recommendation based on kind of some of the information I've received from council members of when are we going to open and let's get open as soon as possible. But this is really, it's up to the majority of the city council. We can accommodate it, but I will tell you, if the council would rather wait, and we'll see where this Delta variant goes and this Gamma variant from Brazil. we're fine. I mean, look at tonight. I mean, we're operating effectively. The public has complete access, which is the objective. And so I will open it up to the council and really follow policy direction. And Joan and I think can help you, formulate that along the way, because we can make any of it work.
Yeah, I think that I would be in no hurry. I mean, it's not essential. And I think that if we were not operating correctly, if we couldn't do this, if we couldn't make it ourselves operate, I would be, chomping at the bit. But with regards to, I think what staff has done at City Hall is amazing. And I think what our council has done, I think we're doing just fine. I mean, our participation is huge. So what are we looking for?
Madam Mayor, could I just clarify right
Please.
now? The slew of orders that the governor just issued to kind of usher in the opening up. One of them said that the relaxation of the Brown Act, which allows this public council, as well as bodies of other public agencies, to meet via Zoom, will continue through September 30th. So as of October 1st, unless he further extends his order, we will be back operating under the Brown Act as we've grown to love it. And that means in-person meetings, that very rigorous requirements on teleconferencing. You'll remember you can teleconference and attend a meeting remotely. If you tell the city clerk ahead of time and we put your location on the agenda, and if you issue a notice wherever you are trying to meet remotely and allow members of the public to attend, you'll remember all these awkward requirements. Those are the requirements that were suspended by the governor during the pandemic. But right now, his new orders allow the suspension to continue through September 30th. He could further extend that, but I just want you to know that unless that's changed or new urgency legislation by the state legislature comes into play, that extends and relaxes the Brown Act requirements in that regard. As of October 1st, right now, I think we have to plan to return to more pre-COVID Brown Act procedures for public meetings.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Councilman Holliber.
Mayor, if I may, just so the council has the information, if we were to extend it a month through the governor's, order, the first meeting then of the city council would be October 12th. So just so you have that information.
Thank you. Councilman Holliber.
Thank you, Ms. Kassman, for that clarification. Can you hear me?
You're still pretty vague.
Okay.
Headset doesn't always work.
Perfect. There you go.
Thank you, Ms. Kassman, for that information. And also, I just want to echo the comments about how great a job our staff has done to be able to move things remote very quickly and to still be extremely responsive to the public throughout the past year plus under COVID. That being said, I think I feel perfectly comfortable reopening City Hall to the public without the appointment being required. I don't anticipate there being a massive crowd of members of the public in our lobby looking to get permits or pay water bills or whatever they would be doing. So with that, I mean, given the state guidelines, given how high the vaccination rates are and how low COVID the case numbers are these days in San Mateo County, and be comfortable fully opening at least the City Hall lobby to the public as soon as immediately to be consistent with the June 15th governor's orders. As for council meetings, I think September 1st is a good or beginning of September is a good goal to resume in-person meetings. I think we do have the August recess, so that'll give us some time to get ready for that. In my personal opinion, I think once we begin in-person meetings, I think it would be best to terminate the Zoom meetings, or at least maybe phase them out pretty quickly. I think it would be very. I mean, I don't know if anybody envisions what the hybrid meetings would look like. I don't see them working particularly well. I have to say, after having been mayor last year, running these meetings through Zoom, it works, but it's definitely far from ideal. Sounds like there may be some technology investments required to be able to pull off a hybrid meeting. And if the relaxation of the Brown Act is going to end at some point in this fall anyways, I don't think it's worth the cost of making those investments. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Fung or Pappen, questions, comments?
I'd like to make a comment, Madam Mayor.
Please go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. And thank Tom, as well as our city attorney for the effort. I mean, I certainly echo that we've done some excellent work in the past 15, 16 months in terms of still maintaining our full operation of our city hall, despite the facility itself is not open to the public, and yet we still be able to conduct people's business every day. And so, in terms of the reopening effort itself of the city hall and be able to serve the public, I think the appointment system is a good step in the right direction. I think, we have been able to make a lot of stride in terms of, the permit submission, plan submissions, and people still be able to apply for permits, pay their water bills, get in touch with our staff remotely. We've invested some time and effort to our online strategy so that people can submit their plans and getting their permits online. So that's a wonderful thing. It is something that, if anything, in terms of silver lining, that this COVID has pushed us in that direction and speed up, this much needed advancement in terms of how we serve the public and be more efficient about it. Now, having said that, there is a certain amount of value and for us to reopen in a more of an in-person interaction between our staff and the public, especially on, for example, over-the-counter permits, right? For something, a simple permit that people want to do remodeling and that they want to have the reassurance that if they come in for, say, a 20-minute or half an hour appointment, then they can walk out with a permit immediately. The benefit is several. There are several benefits to this. Number one, having the appointment system would eliminate a line, within the city hall lobby, and therefore reducing the opportunity of the spread of any other variants of this virus in the future. Number one. Number two, it just ensures that they have the timeline that it's being allocated to them, and then the staff also know exactly what they need to handle and who they need to be working with for that particular time slot. It's just a little bit more efficient that way. So as we reopen our city hall, we need to look for the value-added services so that we can dedicate our staff time to serve the public even better. Now, obviously, there are all the other elements such as paying the water bill in person, and some of the other things that we used to do quite a bit. And the implementation of sort of the mailbox outside the city hall, and being able to pay water bills online, that sort of thing, they should continue, and we should continue to educate and promote our public to take advantage of those services that we now have come to invest in and people have gotten used to. I like to also say that since there are some variants out there in terms of that virus, and then there's pending a lot of new developments, perhaps looking into studying the possibility of investing in some plexiglass at the window, especially the community development window and the public's work development window and the finance desk window, so that we can continue to serve our public in an effective way, and yet, still be able to provide more protection to the public as well as our employee, so that the confidence levels, on our employee being able to serve the public face to face would increase, and also give us, an extra layer of protection if the cost is not too high. Now, coming to the end of the COVID, I would imagine the plexiglass and those things are a little bit more available. Cost would probably come down because the demand of it's a little lower. And so perhaps we can consider investing in those. As far as the public meeting for the council, I think there's a value in offering Zoom as an additional element of a public meeting. I mean, if we have to go back to, in-person meeting beginning October, then that's the law. We have to do it. And I'm happy to be a part of that, even before that. And then I'll leave it to the majority of council to determine the exact timing of it. And the recommendation from Tom earlier about either first or second meeting of September would be a good one, especially if we need to do maybe a few dry run on how this hybrid system would work. Because I think the Zoom element of this public meeting really actually encourage public engagement and having people more opportunity to participate and join our public meeting. And so I actually see that as a benefit. So if we can continue, and if the law also allows it, we can continue to use Zoom as part of the public engagement. I think we should continue to offer that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Fung. Councilwoman Pappen.
In a nutshell, yeah, I think we should at least offer the public Zoom capabilities once the Brown Act requirement has been reenacted. I do think the public appreciates the fact that they don't have to sit through a whole meeting, or they don't have to actually be there. And I realize that that would be an upgrade to the current facilities that we would be able to accommodate that. But I think we should actually look at that, because it does give more accessibility and more transparency to the entire process. And I do believe that's important. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I agree. City Manager, to me, we reopen City Hall when you and staff are comfortable. July, I can't remember, I don't have your slide in front of me, but your timeline works for me. In terms of September, going back in person for council, and I do agree. I think some kind of hybrid meeting, whatever that might mean, makes sense. It means that in the wintertime, when it gets dark at 5 and you're a senior and you no longer drive, can still participate in government. Or if you're a parent trying to get food on the table for your kids and watch them do their homework and still participate, I think there's some value. I think that's one of the good things that may come out of COVID. But I would look forward to you doing more research and coming back with us on that. And with that, do we need a motion? We have 2 more agenda items and a closed door session, and the city manager is wondering if we want to continue the item that people have been waiting for, agenda item 14. So sorry, I'm looking for agenda item. This is an informational item. If there's no other comment, oh, I'm sorry, open to public comment. Members of the public, if you've got some comments or questions, please raise your hand if you're on Zoom, or make sure that the city clerk knows that you're on the phone. I'm going to do a little countdown here to give you a chance to get to that raised hand function. I do know that there are people at home watching to see what the outcome is. I think the public is just happy knowing that the city is planning on this and that we'll roll it out in an effective manner. I have no hands raised. City clerk, any phone calls?
No, I do not see any.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment. This is an informational item. Thank you, Tom. And again, thank you, staff. And if you could, at least 3 of us, I think, talked about a hybrid meeting in some form and come back to us with the cost. You know, the other advantage, if we do put some more telecommunication into city council chambers, that, should we ever have a disaster, may also come in handy. I know the EOC and the Chet Cootie room has been upgraded for telecommunications. Having it in the council chambers could provide additional assets.
Yeah, that sounds good, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for the direction. Even though this is an informational item, this was fantastic to hear and have this conversation. So as it is now, we will open City Hall next Monday the 28th for appointments only. We'll be getting that information out to the public this week with the proper telephone numbers. And then I'll continue to monitor it. So I think Councilmember Fung is bringing up some good points here, that if we find that we are getting extremely busy and we continue to monitor the situation, I will come, before you or just take the authority to open City Hall to the public. I also discussed this with our executive management team. We spent a lot of time, on this again, with the public safety and employee safety. So please know that I do, even though I said I'm in no hurry because things are working, if the public is really desirous, I will make sure that we accommodate and we provide the best service that we can in person. So we'll continue to monitor it and do the best that we can.
Thank you. Okay.
And
moving
Mayor,
on.
sorry, one other thing.
Go ahead.
I will then also bring back a technology plan to the council before you break for August recess, and kind of what we have planned and kind of logistics of having a hybrid Zoom meeting and screen that we can accommodate as we open up physically in September council meetings. So.
Excellent. Thank you. We might have a plan too for when the committees and commissions start going back. Planning and Park and Rec. Park and Rec had never been on TV before COVID versus Planning Commission. It might be nice to come up with something for that. And the other committees and commissions, at least the meetings that meet during the day, it's been helpful to have Zoom. So whatever you come up with your plan to let the committees and commissions when they go back.
Okay, we'll be bringing this back to the council before recess.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 11. This is a hold a public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce an ordinance to add Article XXXIII, Section 10.05.3300, sequitur, affordable housing on-site and fractional fee requirements, and Article XXXI4, Section 10.05.3400, affordable housing commercial linkage impact fee to Chapter 10.5 of Title 10 of the Millbrae Municipal Code. This is an action item. And Joan and the city manager and I had a discussion today on process, because apparently every city does their public hearings. I am going to open the public hearing. Staff will give a report. Then we will have council comments open for the public, back to council comments, and then a motion second vote, hopefully a motion second vote. And well, I'm sorry, close public hearing, then motion second vote. That is the process tonight. And I see Joan saying, yeah, we're all on the same page. All right, staff.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Present.
Yeah, without any further ado, I would just like to introduce our Community Development Director, Ms. Darcy Smith. And speaking about one of those employees that has done a great job for us and have been, working 12, 14 hours a day.
City manager, can I wave my magic wand and say the public hearing is now open?
Yes,
just in case that wasn't clear.
All
Thank
right.
you. Sorry to interrupt.
Ms. Darcy Smith.
Great. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Can you see my screen presentation?
It's kind of cut off for me.
Uh-oh, hold on. Let's try that again. I do see a weird green box, so hold on. Let's try again. Just give me a second. Let's try this. How's that?
Perfect.
Looks great. Good. Okay. Second time's always a charm. This is a big presentation, so it would probably break my computer. So good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name, as introduced, is Darcy Smith, the City of Millbrae Community Development Director. I will be making the presentation tonight on item 11, the city's brand new affordable housing regulations. And I want to emphasize that I made a presentation to you back in May, which included some repetitive information that you'll see tonight. But given that this is slated for adoption of a zoning ordinance and there are impact fees related to this, there needs to be a robust public record here. And just note one quick item that under the published title in the agenda, there was one typo. The correct title is shown here and there was only one change. which was to correct the word fractional to in lieu fee, and that change has been made throughout the documentation that you're reviewing. So the objective, now I can't advance. Okay, there we go. The objective for this item is to hold the public hearing and introduce the zoning ordinance. So the agenda for my presentation will start with that objective, and then I'll lay out the background, summarize why we're here tonight and all the years that laid the groundwork for this. I'll spend the bulk of the presentation covering the ordinance and resolutions and summarize the nexus studies. Then I'll cover the City Council study session feedback and the changes made in response to that policy direction from May, and summarize the Planning Commission recommendation at their public hearing, which was just held June 7th. And then I'll briefly summarize the public outreach, the next steps, tonight's action for consideration by council tonight, and we'll end with time for questions. So as I mentioned previously, the objective is to hold a public hearing to review the Planning Commission recommendation that the City Council waive the first reading, introduce the ordinance, which would add Article Section 34 and Article 33 and 34. I won't read them in detail here because it's quite a mouthful, and I'll move on. So I'll quickly summarize the background. Affordable housing is in high demand in Millbrae. That's according to published sources like the ABAG's housing fit ratio, but you can't open up a newspaper, which we all get online. I can't go online and read the newspaper without hearing about affordable housing. And the pandemic has made that impact on households also very stressful. So historically, affordable housing, as it's defined here, and affordable housing can mean many things to different people. So I'll give you sort of the statute definition that we'll be using for these regulatory documents. It's only been provided in the former redevelopment area, which was eliminated by the state, or negotiated in development agreements on a case-by-case basis in the Millbrae Stationary Specific Plan area. We do have units under construction now that have benefited through that mechanism. But the housing element, which was adopted in 2015, sets goals and policies that I'll walk you through for affordable housing, and it specifically calls for examination of these policy documents that are before you tonight, the ordinance and the fees. So I think it's important to just start with the definition. So you know, again, what the legal definitions are that we're talking about tonight, because it can mean many different things to many different people. But these are specifically deed restricted units for a period of time, 45 or 55 years, that are occupied by only qualifying households or individuals. And the categories that are used by the state and that are carried through to our local legislation put them into different categories, which I'll show on the next slide. But we have defined them as extremely low, very low, low, or moderate income. And what those categories mean is that they have set housing prices that average about 30% of the gross household income that's spent on rent or mortgage payments. And that's an all-inclusive payment. So it includes taxes, insurance, other HOA fees, utilities, and the state has established formulas to set those rents and the sales prices for ownership units for each category based on the bedroom size. These income limits for each category defined annually based on the median income for the county. So what you'll see are county-wide numbers, and they, again, with 52 counties in the state, they vary dramatically. Go out to the Central Valley or areas of Southern California, and you'll see dramatically different numbers. And if you're curious, those income level categories, which are defined in the California Health and Safety Code, Section 50093, they're published annually for each household in the county in all of California by the Department of Housing and Community Development, and they're widely used for all sorts of purposes. So here are those income levels again for our county. They are among the highest in the state, as I mentioned. And so whenever I show this slide, there's always a little bit of a gasp, like, wow, that's really high. But just to step you through the logic here, again, there's ranges, very low, low, and moderate, and they're all based on a percentage of area median income, as you see here, ranging from 30 up to 120% of what's called the area median income. And then the numbers vary a lot. They vary a lot by household sizes. They're published, for 1, 2, 3, I think up to 8-person households. And then they vary a lot based on those levels of affordability. But I think what you'll see here will resonate that these are people that live in our community, that work in our community, and many of us have in our own households that can relate to. So the city is under requirements for these regulatory items. Government Code Section 65580 states that local and state governments have a responsibility to use the powers invested in them to facilitate the improvement and development of housing, to make adequate provision for the housing needs of all economic segments of the community. I think as you see with those income levels, they're really capturing a really wide range of economic segments. And as the council knows, based on our annual progress report for the housing element, the city must work towards achieving the state mandated regional housing needs allocation numbers for the city of Millbrae through the housing element. We again don't build housing, and housing funding is very constrained and very competitive, as you heard with the core housing project. But we do need to adopt policies and facilitate that production through our local policies in these income categories. And I'll show you our progress towards those RHNA numbers, and also what we're looking at through the next housing cycle, which is going to actually start the counting process next June. So here are some of the guiding housing element policies that went into this legislation. I won't step through them in detail, but I just want to emphasize the ordinance before you tonight, the fees that are before you tonight, these are all required in the housing element. So what is before you tonight isn't something we've just been working on for the past 6 months, but really we've been working on them since 2015. And the ordinance and the resolutions implement and are fully consistent with these policies. And I think will really serve us well as we move into our next housing element update. These are the city's regional housing needs allocation, both for the current housing element cycle, which is an 8-year cycle, though it will, the numbers that count towards the current cycle will end, I've heard, next June. And then we start the new cycle. But you can see here that for the current cycle, we were allocated a goal of 663 units, and the vast majority of those, 406 units, are in these deed restricted categories. So very low, low, and moderate. And one thing I want to point out here is that there's a lot of units in the very low income category, and then it drops off a little bit in low and picks up a little bit in moderate. And that trend is carried through as we look to the next RHNA cycle, where we have a much higher number of 2,199 units, and we also have a much higher number of the deed restricted units at 1,267. So I've shown you this slide a few times starting back in April, but I just want to reiterate that this piece of legislation is critical to setting forth the policies that will help the city achieve these goals. So next, I'll step through the ordinance and resolutions. The regulations before you tonight, and if introduced tonight at the next meeting, consist of the ordinance, which would add 2 separate sections to the zoning code, then a resolution which would have the affordable housing requirements and program regulations. That's really kind of the heart of the regulatory requirements for the actual construction of the units and implementation of the occupancy of those units. And last, we have the resolution which would establish affordable housing in lieu fees. Those are for residential development projects, and then commercial linkage impact fees, which are for commercial development projects. And those fees that I mentioned align with the 2 different ordinances. They're broken up into a residential and a commercial ordinance for efficient implementation. So what are the guiding policy elements for the regulations? Well, I touched on some of those in the background section, but I want to emphasize that these regulations are really critical to advancing the city's legitimate interest in providing and facilitating the construction of affordable housing to all income levels and dispersed throughout the city. This is a citywide ordinance, so it would not be overly concentrated in one area. So this ordinance will require the construction through private development or other providers of affordable housing with a range of types. That's a range of ownership and rental types and units and bedroom sizes and tenure and affordability. And it will mitigate the effects of new development. How does it do that? Well, it requires developers to pay their fees or build the units on site. And it will also create a brand new affordable housing fund. So I want to emphasize there's no decisions made tonight about the funding of that, because guess what? The fund balance is actually 0 right now. But as we move forward through the annual budget process, this would provide the city with the opportunity to identify and adopt the annual budget, which would identify budget expenditures for that. And that could directly fund construction or preservation of affordable units in Millbrae. And I think there was a question previously, is all this happening in Millbrae? And yes, this is all happening in Millbrae. We get the funds in Millbrae, we spend the funds in Millbrae, and we try to create the housing in Millbrae. So some of the key features of the ordinance are that it established crystal clear objective standards for the provision of on-site or inclusionary affordable housing. Again, those are deed restricted, and they would be built with new development projects that include 10 or more units for the on-site units as set in the resolution. It also establishes a requirement for the affordable housing in lieu fee on residential development projects. Those are for projects that consist of 4 to 9 units, or when the calculation of affordable units in development projects of 10 or more results in a fractional unit of less than 0.5. And the best way for you to understand those fees is just to get out the resolution and flip through it really fast, and you'll see exactly the logic and the linear approach to these fees. And this is a very common approach that most cities are taking with this fractional fee. Next, as I mentioned, establishes the fund. That's just really important because when you set up a new fund, it has to be set up legally to receive the fees that's collected on the ordinance. And this wouldn't be a good zoning ordinance without provisions and processes for administration, waivers, and enforcement, and a lot of definitions. So next we have the second ordinance section, which is the draft affordable housing commercial linkage impact fee ordinance. Again, that applies only to new commercial development and applies just a fee. The city will not require new commercial developments to construct units unless they voluntarily do that to opt out of the fee, such as a mixed use project. Commercial uses includes a lot of things: office, life sciences, R&D uses, labs, hotels, medical uses, retail uses, restaurants. We're trying to capture the uses where there's employees, because those employees create a demand for housing. So there's a little bit of a logic there, really explained well in the Nexus study. But essentially, when the city creates new non-residential development, then there's new employees attracted there, and there's a quantifiable number who create demand for these very low, and even the moderate income units. As I showed you with the moderate incomes, candidly, they're on the higher side when you compare them to historical incomes or incomes in other places. So again, they increase the demand for affordable housing, but they also exacerbate the shortage of housing available in the city just because of supply and demand. So next, I'll step through the draft resolutions. Again, those aren't before council tonight, but if you introduce the ordinance tonight, really sets in motion the next step, which is adopting the resolutions at the next meeting. And I stepped through this slide in detail at the last meeting, explained a lot of the logic, but it really relates back to the RENA slides where I explained the breakdown of very low, and moderate units. And sort of important to note here is that this is the first time the city's adopting these. So we're adopting them by resolution, gives the city council flexibility to update them. I think you get an update on the RENA progress every April as part of the Housing Element Annual Progress Report. I think that's when we would brief the council on the progress towards these income categories, how we're attracting interest in these different categories, and where there's different need. So these are not set in stone. Council can change them by resolution, which is pretty straightforward. So next, the program resolution. As I mentioned, there's a lot of detail in there. It's many pages, and it's more related to the construction, implementation, administration of these units. But one key thing that I think is really important is that the fees in lieu of constructing the units would not be allowed except for the provision of fractional units. Now, consistent with state law, which was amended as a result of the Palmer case, the developers of rental units may request an alternative compliance method. Again, that's in Millbrae, and they would have to essentially provide land for the units or acquisition or rehabilitation of units to make up the deficiency on their site. This is quite rare, and I want to emphasize if this were to happen, it would come to City Council for approval with the project. And there's a lot more in that resolution. I don't want to get into too many of the details, but a really common thing is, well, how long are these restrictions going to be in place? So for affordable ownership units, they may only be sold or resold only to eligible households. Restrictions are 45 years, and they're reapplied and recorded upon each resale or transfer of the unit that occurs while the restriction is in place. And rental restrictions are enforced for 55 years, which is roughly lifespan of a new building without major remodeling. And there is the enforcement of these requirements with a regulatory agreement with the developer or affordable housing agreement with the homeowner. Those are very meaty legal agreements that will be drawn up and recorded. And then this program also includes requirements for the affordable housing unit size, type, and design standards. Another common question is, is the city going to monitor where they're built so that they're not concentrated on one floor? That's in the resolution, to be dispersed, to have the same number or proportional number of bedrooms to the project, so that they're not all small units or not all big units. There's a lot of equity here in terms of the proportionality, and the residents have full access to the amenities that are in these apartment complexes or condominium projects. And the rents and sales prices are established by council resolution annually. We aren't doing that now because we don't anticipate bringing any units on in 2021. But as we move forward into next year and we are actually bringing these units online, then the council would set those rents and sales prices. And next, the in-lieu fees. So the affordable housing in-lieu fees for the residential developments, which again are in the resolution, set forth the fees. I just want to show you some examples here. So if someone came in with a 9-unit rental project, they would be assessed a fee almost $500,000. So that gives you a sense of kind of what it would cost. So if they were 10 units, then we would be getting 2 units on site. But 9 units is just under the on-site threshold, and hence they have a large fee. Now, fractional unit, again, there's a sliding scale by 0.05 unit ranges, and here's an example of a 0.45 low-income unit assessed a fee of about $150,000. But the best way to explain this is, again, really for you to pull out the resolutions and look through it. But in either scenario, the property owner could round up, provide the unit on site. I want to emphasize our real goal here is to get units on site. But you can see we will be collecting fees that then the city could use ideally to fund those construction offsite or on other projects. So the draft resolution for the linkage fees includes fees for these uses that's shown here, which you reviewed the study session, but just a little bit of logic. For the record, staff recommended that we set the fees, which the council does have full discretion under, consistent with the Nexus study. The fee for hotel uses at $3,868 per hotel room, and retail, restaurant, and other types of uses at $580 per gross square foot, which is the average. But you might recall that for office uses, which would also include life science uses, R&D and lab uses, medical office, we did want to set it a little bit below the average of the peer cities in the counties as an incentive to attract new office development. And we looked at a smaller submarket of our closest market area of Burlingame, San Bruno, and South San Francisco, and wanted to be competitive. And so it's just a little bit below, but I will emphasize the council has the discretion to change these fees at any time through a resolution. So I think this is our initial starting point, but we always have the flexibility to change the fees. But this shows you the peer cities, and especially for the office fee, there is quite a large range. On the low end, it's $1,291 at Belmont, and on the high end is $2,750 in Foster City. And those cities, I should emphasize, do also change the fees. They change with the CPI, but there's some cities that are also looking at these fees and updating them. So this just captures one snapshot in time. But again, the logic here is that we would want to be competitive in the market for attracting new office development, which does pay other revenue sources into the city's general fund, such as property taxes. So here's the slide that walks you through example project requirements. So for example, a 65-unit residential development project, if it was a rental project, it would be required to provide 7 very low income units on site, 3 low income units on site, and then pay this in lieu fee of about $83,000, or they could round up and provide an extra unit. For if it was an ownership or condominium project, it would be required to provide 10 moderate income units. And then if it was about 100,000 square foot office project, the fee that would be assessed would be $1.286 million. And if it was about a 20,000 square foot retail project, the fee would be about 116,000. So it just gives you a sense of how the fees would roll out. So the fiscal impacts of this ordinance and resolution. So if they're adopted, the fees would provide a future source of funding for affordable housing programs and projects. Again, the decision about the expenditures will be made in the future as part of an annual budget or as funding opportunities arise mid-year. The city really needs to build up a fund balance, honestly, of a few $1 million to make a meaningful impact on some of the projects. But we will also examine setting appropriate fees to cover the administrative costs of implementing this program, which under the laws we can pass on to developers. So next, I'll cover the nexus studies briefly. They're very technical legal documents. And we have our consultant tonight from Harris if you have questions about that, but the proposed fees and on-site requirements are evaluated in 2 different studies. The draft, actually it's the final now, affordable housing fractional fee and nexus study, and the final commercial linkage fee nexus study. And what this study does through a lot of heavy analysis is document that there is this reasonable relationship between the need for affordable housing and the impacts of the development described in the studies for which the corresponding fee is charged. Again, that's under state law, documents a reasonable relationship between the use of the affordable housing impact fee and the type of development for which the fee is charged. And then there's a robust economic feasibility analysis that includes studies of potential development prototypes and concludes these fees and on-site requirements are financially feasible based on average development costs and project revenue estimated in the city. And the affordable housing economic feasibility analysis conclusion was that for rent projects using multiple unit types are feasible when these inclusionary requirements are applied, and the same holds true for sale projects. And for the commercial linkage impact fee, the conclusion was likewise that these fees don't change the feasibility of the project. And I will emphasize again through the peer cities documentation that there are many cities in neighboring cities and throughout the county that are charging these fees. Again, sometimes at much higher rates, and developers build them into their pro formas. So next, I'll summarize the City Council study session, which was held May 11th, and the Planning Commission recommendation from their meeting June 7th. So the City Council study session on May 11th stepped through some really key policy decisions. I've shown those on the previous slide, but I just want to refresh everyone's memory that you review the on-site affordable housing requirements. Those are, again, the table of the percentages and income category distributions, and you support those with no changes. You looked at the fees, you supported those with no changes. You did have a recommendation to change for the commercial fee exemptions. We have a few cities in the county who adopted ordinances with an exemption for new commercial developments with less than 5,000 square feet exempt from the fee. And the recommendation was to remove that exemption. So we've done that in the revised ordinances before you tonight. And next, there was a recommendation for the on-site requirements in the ordinance for residential developments to apply to projects with 4 units or less. It was originally a little bit higher, and we dropped that down because I think the logical argument was made that essentially by right you can build up to 3 units on a single family property, not full units, but an accessory dwelling unit, a junior accessory dwelling unit, and a main house. And there's legislation that's reviewing these types of projects, but setting the threshold at 4 units would ensure capture at the appropriate unit size, project size. So next, the council reviewed the ordinance applicability timing for pipeline development applications. There's a more robust discussion of this in the staff report. But the recommendation in the ordinance, which is before you tonight, is to provide clear exemptions for active development projects if the planning entitlement application is deemed complete, or if there's no entitlement, then when the building permit is submitted by the ordinance or resolution's effective dates. And I'll show those on a subsequent slide. The caveat is that that's unless otherwise exempt or projects that have vested rights under state laws. As you are familiar, there are a number of state laws such as SB 330, SB 35, which can be used to vest rights under state laws. And I've noted those in the staff report for projects that are under review. And the council supported the language in the ordinance, which is before you tonight, with no changes. And last, for the affordable housing fractional fees, council supported those with no changes to the fee amounts. So there was a change for the program resolution, and that was to add a provision to address projects that might come in initially with 9 or fewer units, so just under the on-site threshold or the threshold for on-site units. And then the project at a certain period of time after initial approval adds more units. So the city looked at language through our attorneys at Goldfarb and Littman, who are also here tonight to answer questions. And we added language that will allow us to require an agreement determining the appropriate number of inclusionary units required and affordable housing in lieu fees for development that falls into this category. And given we don't know exactly what's going to happen, how many units they would look at adding, an agreement, which is a legally binding contract between the city and that developer, would be the appropriate mechanism here to address this situation. So last, the Planning Commission public hearing, which was held June 7th. They held the public hearing, as you are doing tonight, reviewed the ordinance, and they voted successfully 4-0-0 to adopt the resolution recommending City Council adopt the ordinance, which is attached to your packet tonight, is attachment 2. Important to note, they made no modifications at all to the ordinance recommendation. They were thoroughly briefed on the council policy direction and received that report very positively. And there were no public comments on the ordinance at all. Next, I'm almost done. I'll summarize the public outreach and next steps. Public outreach, community engagement when working on these really substantial ordinances is critical. So the first step I did before we even started these meetings was to build an informational webpage, which you'll see here, dedicated to this ordinance and the fees. We created an interested parties list. We included all applicants of current development projects under review, which you were included in a table showing those development projects. So you know who we notified. We notified the applicants and the property owners for all the meetings we've held. And we also notified major community-based housing organizations like HEART, HIP, and Housing Leadership. And of course, we posted public hearing notices as required by the municipal code and the state government code. But I want to emphasize we sort of really tried to get the word out about these fees and communicate this out to the development community. So we've had, again, a number of public meetings. We're on our 3rd public meeting tonight. And if this moves forward with introduction, then we'll return to the City Council at the next regular public meeting on July 13th. And there you would adopt the resolution and the resolutions. And as I mentioned previously, the effective dates here are very, very critical because they would affect development projects on the date they go into effect. So if we proceed as scheduled to the next regular meeting and adopted, the ordinance would be effective 30 days after the adoption. That ensures that we would capture the requirements for on-site units as fast as possible, which I know is a strong interest of the City Council. And then if adopted, the fee resolution would be effective 60 days after adoption. So that would lag a little bit, but that's based on state law. So tonight's action and questions. Tonight's action, the staff recommendation is that you hold a public hearing to review the Planning Commission recommendation that the City Council waive the first reading, introduce the ordinance before you tonight for this amendment to Chapter 10.5 of Title 10 of the Municipal Code. And last, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them along with City Manager Williams, but I want to point out this really was a team effort and we were assisted greatly with an attorney with deep expertise in housing legislation at Goldfarb and Littman, Gabrielle Johnson, and Barbara Kautz, who is not with us tonight, but worked a lot on this. And then our economic feasibility and nexus study consultant, Nick Kroll at Harrison Associates, who you might recall also did the city's impact fees that were adopted last year. So we're all here to answer any questions, and that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Community Development Director Smith. As always, an amazing job. And to everybody, thank you so much for helping us get these critical tools in our toolbox. I have to say, before I open it up to council, I'm checking the participants list and I don't see a lot of the housing advocates, including ones that live here in Millbrae. So maybe they think that everything is good. So congrats on that. With that, I will open it up to council. I would only say that we're at 10:03. If we go into a long discussion, I'm going to have to ask for an extension. So just please keep that in mind. Don't want to cut off conversation, but keep it in mind. Thank you. Council comments. I am seeing no hands raised. With that, Councilman Hollenberg.
Can you hear me?
Still vague,
No?
still quiet.
Sorry about that.
Now you're good.
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for the report on this. I think we went into quite a bit of detail at our previous hearing. So thank you for taking that feedback into account. I had a question about the pipeline projects that are listed here and why those are not covered by the proposed ordinance. And I think we did talk about this briefly at the last study session. I think, looking at these projects, we have some projects that are pretty large, 232 units, 376 units. And that really has only a marginal number of affordable units really aren't pulling their fair share. We also have two pretty large commercial projects that if they were assessed fees, we would be able to collect a significant amount of linkage fees for the two life science projects. So I'm wondering, personally, I'd prefer to see if we can include these projects within the ordinance, but I'm curious to hear why they are not, why the proposed ordinance would not include pipeline projects.
This is Darcy Smith, Community Development Director. I'll take a stab at answering that, but I think it would be best if the attorneys also do it. So I might have misspoken. At this point in time, I don't think we have absolute certainty what projects the ordinance will or will not apply to because, well, one, we don't know with absolute certainty the effective date. We can predict it based on the outcome of potential outcome. But as I said in the slide, that the ordinance right now is written based on what you reviewed in May, that if a project for which we are processing an application now is deemed complete no later than the effective date of the ordinance, then it would be exempt. So we don't really know, we don't know that right now. That said, as you'll see in table 5 of your staff report in the notes, we are processing a number of applications where they have indicated a preliminary application to seek vested rights pursuant to SB 330, which is the Housing Crisis Act, or an SB 35 application where they filed a notice of intent to apply for approval under the streamlined ministerial approval process in State Government Code 65913.4. We are reviewing those applications. So again, it would be premature for me to comment on the substance of that. But as I mentioned in the staff report in the presentation, state laws trump that vest rights or previous development agreements, for example, may trump a local ordinance. Now, the ordinance does stipulate that projects would be subject to any predecessor ordinance, resolution, or policy in effect, but it gets really complicated from there on out. So
if those projects are not deemed complete before the effective date of the ordinance, would they fall under the ordinance then?
For some, but only those that don't otherwise have vesting rights under state law, subdivision map act, or any other laws.
Okay, so basically you're saying there's no way to require no way to require affordable inclusionary units for 1100 El Camino Real, 1301 Broadway, 130 to 140, any of these that mention the various state laws.
This is where I'll probably turn it over to the attorney to answer that question. So would Gabrielle Johnson of Gold Tar want to take an attempt to answer that?
Yes, so, I think Darcy explained it quite well. And it depends on what point in the process your housing application is. But if they have submitted, for example, a preliminary application under SB 330, all the fees that are currently in place on the date they submit that would be locked in. So you would not be able to apply these particular fees. Additionally, all your current zoning laws are locked in from that date. So you would not be able to apply any new zoning laws and regulations and standards beyond the date of when they submitted their preliminary application. And then if they did not submit a preliminary application, you would also want to look at if their application was complete and at what point in the process they have reached that. So just to reiterate what Darcy says, it is a little bit up in the air at this point, depending on when the applications came in, when their rights were vested, and then also when you adopt this particular ordinance and the fees. And then additionally, there are some other types of projects that would not, the fees would in the ordinance would not apply to. So for example, if you had a development agreement, a government code development agreement in place, that would it generally will lock in all of the zoning and fees in place at the time that that's entered into. So you would not be able to apply to those types of projects either.
Okay. So at our previous council meeting, we also discussed potentially having an urgency ordinance to try to make sure we capture as many of these projects that have not been deemed complete or do not have other vested rights within our inclusionary ordinance. That has not come forward to us yet. It's been over a month. Is that something we can still do? Because I'm very concerned about the timeline of when this ordinance will go into effect.
Well, I'll jump in here. We had that discussion at the previous council meeting, and I think it was decided not to move forward with the urgency ordinance based on the timing of when this ordinance would come into effect, and the aspect of the linkage fees, which went down a different timeline, that there would be no added value to having an urgency ordinance because we would not be able to collect the linkage fees anyway. And so we gain no time value.
Okay. So have 210 Adrian Life Sciences and 20 Rollins Road, have those projects been deemed complete?
No, they have not been deemed complete.
So if we were to approve an urgency ordinance today, then those two projects would have to pay linkage fees. If those projects are deemed complete between some point between now and the effective date of this ordinance, they will not have to pay linkage fees. Is that correct?
Well, I'll have the attorney step in, but we had the conversation about an urgency ordinance and the linkage fees themselves, that due to some of the legal timing, as I understood it at the time, you could not do an urgency ordinance for the linkage fees to collect the linkage fee. You could do an urgency ordinance to require the percentage, the 15% for residential, but we could not do an urgency ordinance to implement the linkage fees that would accelerate the timing of what you're saying there, council member, that you're trying to achieve.
I mean, I'm glad this is finally coming forward and moving along. I'm quite disappointed though that we're missing out on a significant number of developments in Millbrae that will not be subject to this ordinance.
Yeah, I guess, I will say that the tools in our toolbox, right? This legislation has been around for decades. And so we are just catching up and doing the best we can to get the tools in our toolbox that, quite frankly, could have been adopted 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So not to sound offensive, but, we are moving. The city is open for business, economic development. We're attracting. And yeah, I agree, but we are doing the best that we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Holliver, good points. Well said. I'm going to switch channels here for a second. Darcy, how realistic are these RENA numbers?
You mean the next RENA cycle numbers?
Yes.
I'll be cautiously optimistic that as a result of the downtown and El Camino Real specific plan, that we might be able to find opportunities to create zoning changes to allow for the feasibility of those units.
So that's kind of where I was leading. Do we put the cart before the horse, or should we be, looking at that now so that we could fulfill these numbers, or
So we have a study session next Monday night where we will check in on the guiding principles for the general plan, and you'll be briefed on the specific plan update, and that will, or specific plan, sorry, and that will come before you next year for adoption. So I think we have a lot of projects in the pipeline now that are going to move forward, and then we're going to see new projects come forward under the new general plan, right? So we've already talked to developers and about the general plan update and the specific plan underway, and they're really excited about it. So I think that there'll be then more opportunities for development that we'll be able to capture through this new ordinance and then through that new general plan and specific plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Council members, anybody else? If you don't have a question now, I can open it up for public comment and you can come back. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised from Councilman Fung or Pappen. Opening up public comment period. If you have members of the public, if you could raise your hand if you're on Zoom, or make sure the city clerk knows. I do see Jean Perry. Councilman, Jean, please go ahead.
Sure, I'm speaking in favor of adopting these ordinances in support of the value of inclusion and diversity in our community. Our community is enriched by the presence of people of all income levels and abilities, and we are all diminished when those people cannot be in our presence. I don't see the value in unnecessary delay, and it looks like things are moving as quickly as they can at this point. I'm hoping that there can be many more projects in the pipeline. So adoption of these proposed ordinances are a step in the right direction, in my opinion. Meeting the RENA requirements benefit all of us, not just the housed individuals. I want to ask, though, who will benefit in 45 and 55 years when the very low status sunsets? Someone likely will, big time, but at a human cost. Currently, affordable housing is sunsetting in Foster City, and the cost is definitely human. So these units have been occupied in sequence by different qualifying individuals, and now the unit does not have that status anymore. So I don't know if these ordinances have any power in dealing with that issue. I doubt the need for low-income housing will be absent in 45 to 55 years. So it does take a lot of teamwork and cooperation for us to meet our RENA needs and to support the housing needs of our community. In the 21-22 and the 22-23 fund years, your Prop 63 Mental Health Services Act money is actually going to be directed towards over $10 million towards 25 very low income housing units that have associated funding for supportive services. And I'm really hoping that we'll see those happen. At least some of those 25 units will happen in our community of Millbrae. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Ms. Perry. Anybody else, public comment? I'm not seeing any hands raised. City Clerk, anyone on the phone?
There are people who called in, but I'm not sure if they want to speak. If you do, please press *9 now.
Okay, City Clerk, I'm going to assume that no one has star nined, and closing public hearing or closing public comment, bringing it back to City Council. Starting with Councilwoman Pappen or Fung, do you have any comments, questions? Jeannie, you put your camera on. Would you go ahead?
I agree with the comments made in particular that, yes, we absolutely have to accommodate for the diversity of people of all income levels. And I hope that we can move this ahead as quickly as possible. I was under the same understanding as Council Member Holliber. I thought we were going for an emergency resolution here, but let's do what we can. I would move approval.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Fung.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think the affordable housing ordinance here is extremely important to us. We've been waiting for this for a while, and I'm so glad to see that we're finally able to put this together. So I would move to second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Comments. Darcy, when we had, it didn't seem like a month and a half ago. Time is moving so quickly. We had members from the public that asked this question, and I agree with it. If we have these affordable units and we have people who've grown up here in Millbrae or live in Millbrae now, how will we ensure that if not people from Millbrae could qualify, then at least people that live and have lived in our region qualify?
So that's a very good question. There are laws, fair housing laws and other laws, talked a lot about other laws tonight, that influence this. So what I would like to do is come back at a later date with an implementation program for the actual, and I want to say like the selection of the tenants and qualifying buyers, but just a program for which the city will facilitate developing a list of qualifying eligible individuals or households. So the city does not actually administer the rental units, but we can maintain a waiting list. And for ownership units, the city can get more involved, as we have in the past with other units that have come online. But I'd like to flesh this out in more detail as part of an administrative program that we would come back for you about at a later date, because there is a lot of legal complexity here. I think you can see I've mastered all the complexity of the ordinance and the fees. We've got that before you tonight, but we are not bringing on any units this year at all. Next year at Gateway, we'll bring on approximately 100 units, not us personally, but the developers. And as we move closer to those units coming online, then I'd like to come back to you with a more comprehensive implementation approach for qualifying for the household qualification.
Excellent. City Manager, if we can just make sure we've got that on the annual calendar so we don't lose it. Because as I've said at previous meetings, my townhome in Mountain View has a low income CDBG funded project, and 90% of the people in there came from out of the country. So they never worked in the local region, and that was brought up to Mountain View at the time. And I believe they've got some kind of program now that would help the low income people who are getting pushed out in Mountain View gentrification be able to continue to live in the community. And I just would like to see that. In addition, I have met with the County of San Mateo Housing Authority people who work on CDBG funding. And they said that often the county CDBG funding, which we do not get directly because we're a non-entitled city, we have to compete for this. Usually it's because a city has a relationship with a nonprofit housing group. So Darcy, if you bring this back, if we can also kind of include reaching out to the housing NGOs, whether that's Life Moves or Mid-Peninsula Housing Coalition, that we get them in there so that we are in the place that we can capture those CDBG funds, which maybe we've got a little with the core housing project, but we can have it in the future. With that, I will shut up. I am like everybody else. I thought this was also an emergency, didn't realize it's been 6 weeks. I would love to, if there's no further comments, call a vote.
Mayor, if I may, so on this confusion on the urgency ordinance or not, we did have a discussion with the city council. We communicated that there were not any development projects that we would benefit from adopting an urgency ordinance, and you cannot adopt fees under an urgency ordinance. And I think the goal was to make sure that there were any projects in the pipeline that we could collect those fees. And if an urgency ordinance could do that, then we would adopt it. But legally, we cannot adopt an urgency ordinance to collect the fees that you're also adopting tonight. And then in terms of the projects, the project on Office Depot, for example, will be subject to this, and other or will not.
Just to correct that, Office Depot filed an SB 330 preliminary application.
That's right.
A long time ago, many months ago. But also to emphasize with the urgency ordinance, I believe that a zoning ordinance, which this is, an urgency ordinance needs to go through the Planning Commission. So we got there as fast as we could.
Anyway, I understand.
Okay, hold on, Councilwoman Pappen. Let City Manager, then Councilman Fung, then Pappen.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that we did have that discussion, and based on timing and other legal requirements, mostly for the fees, that, you know, again, it was concluded that just moving this ordinance forward would be the best that we could do.
I would say we have almost 2 miles of El Camino Real. Some of it has recently been developed. We have other opportunities. Gina, I'll come back to you. Councilman Fung.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So
his hand was up before yours, Gina.
Okay.
All right. We have a vote.
Councilman Fung, go, and then we'll call the vote.
Thank you. So thank you, Darcy. I just want to say one thing with regards to the distribution of these affordable units in the future. You know, the consideration of equity is extremely important. I just want to say that publicly that all members of the community need to be considered in a fair and equitable way, including immigrants, because oftentimes they are, you know, being overlooked as well. So, and especially on an affordable housing ordinance such as this, which is, you know, a lot of these, you know, these ordinances and these affordable units would benefit, you know, communities of members of the marginalized communities. So we need to be extremely careful and, you know, keep equity in mind when we craft our policy for distribution of these units. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
And yeah, I'm ready for the vote.
Yes. City Clerk, will you please call the vote?
I just want to make sure this is the vote to close the public hearing. Is that correct? Or is this to approve?
Actually, we had council members make their motion before that, so that's a complication when you don't wait for the discussion to happen. Sorry to be scolding. Will the two make the motion and the second hold it so that we can close public hearing?
I thought the mayor opened the public hearing, the mayor can close the public hearing.
Nope. The rule that was decided that I mentioned at the beginning is that we would have a motion second to close the public hearing along the lines of what was discussed today earlier with the city attorney and the city manager. So I need a motion to close public hearing.
I can't get through it through the speeches. Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. Call the vote.
Councilmember Holliburn?
Aye.
Councilmember Fung?
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Liba?
Aye.
Mayor Snyder?
Aye.
The council closed the public hearing.
Thank you. Now we have a motion made by Pappen, seconded by Fung. The discussion has closed. Please call the vote.
All right. Councilmember Holliburn?
Aye.
Councilmember Fung?
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Liba?
Aye.
Mayor Snyder?
Aye.
Okay. The City Council waived the first reading and introduced the ordinance adding Article 33, Section 10.5, .3300, ESAC Affordable Housing On-Site and In lieu Fees Requirement, and Article 34, Section 10.05, .3400, ESAC Affordable Housing Commercial Linkage Impact Fee to Chapter 10.5 of Title 10 of the Millbrae Municipal Code by the vote of 5-0.
Thank you, City Clerk, and to staff, all of you. I know you've worked hard. Thank you so much. Okay, Council, we are at 10:28. We have a closed door session. We have one agenda item. We didn't do report outs last week. I have one item that I have to bring up. Would you like to table agenda item 14, which is to talk about what's happening on the West MSASP area, or do that as quickly as we can? I have one comment that has to do with a change in an MOU. What do you want to do?
Go
Go ahead
forward.
with 14. I wanna go
I'm
with-
sorry, Annie, I couldn't understand.
I would like to go forward, please.
With 14?
Yes.
Okay. I see a shake from Ruben. Gina, I couldn't hear you.
Yes, 14.
Yes, with the 11 p.m. cutoff.
Okay, all right. City Manager, you're on for 14.
All right, thank you.
If
Thank you,
if we
Mayor.
can do it quickly, please.
Thank you again, Tom Williams, City Manager. So this is an update on the property on the west side of the Millbrae Transit Station. As you know, within the west side area of the MSASP, the city of Millbrae owns a key piece of property. Gross total acres is 1.14, and it's envisioned for a future hotel. Obviously, as the council knows and has been aware, readying the subject property for development consistent with the adopted Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan, the Certified Environmental Impact Report, and the Kaiser Marston Highest and Best Use Study, which determined that a hotel would be the highest and best use because the decision of the council was to do a long-term lease rather than a sale of the property. A hotel was the highest and best use. And we still believe that that is the case today, even in light of the pandemic. So as presented in previous reports, the complexity of this was due to a 1998 agreement between the city and BART involving the transfer of property that's necessary for the realignment and extension of California Drive. And as you know, California Drive is a vital circulation element within the west side of the station, providing access to both the Caltrain platform and the BART station. And the rail or the realignment and extension of California Drive was described in both the 1998 Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan and the amended plan in 2016, and also necessary to clear the environmental. So early in discussions, if you can move to the next slide, please. Earlier in discussions with BART, the light yellow area is currently owned by BART. The BART station on this diagram is at the top of the page. El Camino Real is at the bottom of the page. Millbrae Avenue is to the right, and the Hemlock neighborhood is to the left. In light yellow is property that is owned by BART. And as you turn the corner and follow my cursor down below, which is Railroad Avenue, there's a small little remnant piece of property that's also owned by BART. These three city properties, the light pink area is an area that back when the BART station was being developed in the mid-90s, 2000s, the city relinquished its rights to this property to BART and for the current pickup and drop-off area. And so there was an irrevocable easement on those two parcels that part of the 1998 agreement, when we were ready to build out the west side, those are subject to transfer by BART. The very light green area is the current city parking lot, which was acquired by redevelopment property tax increment dollars many, many decades ago. Next slide, please. So again, this is an aerial perspective showing all of the parcels that were under BART ownership or because of the irrevocable easement controlled by BART. These are the four parcels: D3700, D Linden in the square, DRR, and D3125 are all of the properties that we've been working with BART to transfer to the city. And as I was going to say, in the early discussions with BART, they were unwilling to transfer this property to us per that 1998 agreement. As we continue discussions and things progress, BART requested that we renegotiate a new agreement to ensure that all of the station access in terms of pickup and drop off for vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, bus, private shuttle buses would all be accommodated pursuant to what BART's requirements would be. And so we renegotiated an agreement, and in March of this last year, both the BART board approved the agreement and the city council approved the agreement. That was then signed by myself based on the authority of the city council and by the BART general manager, Bob Powers. So the agreement is signed. Next slide, please. So with these parcels, because of some funding, grant funding that was allocated to BART by the Federal Transit Administration, BART had to move forward with getting FTA approval to transfer the properties to us. And again, that's the yellow property that you see labeled as California Drive, and the small little square parcel just below that, and the two parcels to the right in purple. And this is an overlay that shows the extension of California Drive pursuant to the original adopted 98 plan, the EIR, as well as the 2016 plan. And this by far is the best. This realignment of California Drive is by far the best station access plan in terms of pedestrian circulation, bicycle access based on BART's hierarchy, and vehicular and bus access. Next slide, please. So why is this important besides just adhering to the plan for station access and renegotiating? Because of the fact that the envisioned build out of BART, we know high-speed rail is knocking on the door. This is something, and these two photos really show what the vision is, I think, for Millbrae and in the plan. So the top left is just an idea of what is negotiated in the BART agreement that we've recently consummated that shows the bus ingress, egress, pickup, drop off. The photo to the bottom right, that's the Transbay Terminal design in San Francisco, which I think in 2008, when the voters approved the $9 billion or $8 billion for high-speed rail, and as we work through 2021, this is really the vision that I think was envisioned for the what we call the BART station, which is really San Mateo County's station and the only high-speed rail station in San Mateo County because of the proximity to the airport. Next slide, please. And again, these are just some photos, real photos of the Transbay Terminal, and it gives you a good vision of what we, in the city staff, and I believe the council, and working with BART in our agreement, eventually will be built out. Now, in acquiring or getting the property transferred back to the city, it allows us to optimize the development, right? Number one, achieve the circulation requirements, and two, optimizing the build out of the entire area. So this would be underneath any development, and we would build over this and develop out the air rights that is contiguous to the Caltrain platform. Next slide, please. So as we continue to work through BART transferring the parcels to the city, the right-of-way easements for that parcel D3700, which is that long yellow piece of property on Railroad Avenue, has been approved by FTA. So the approval of the FTA to release the federal interest for other facilities is still pending, and those are the two purple parcels that the city actually has underlying title, but BART is relinquishing the irrevocable easement to the city. And we're still awaiting for FTA's final written approval. I did find out and confirm today that FTA verbally communicated to BART that they have approved it, but we're waiting for the final written approval from FTA. Then the grant deeds for the final parcels, as you know, we've worked with a Jarvis law firm. As soon as we get that written approval, the quitclaim deeds have already been drafted and prepared, ready for signature for BART and the city to get those deeds transferred back to the city. Next slide, please. So the steps to get to an RFP, because I know that that's really the objective of moving this forward. The city council must take action to deem the property surplus. Once that's done, we will perform an appraisal. We're required to send notices out to other public agencies and affordable housing builders. This is consistent with the Surplus Land Act under AB 1486. There's a process that we're required to have that notice out for 60 days. If no other governmental agency that's subject to the Surplus Land Act or an affordable housing builder, we receive no response, we can close that process and then move forward with an RFP. If we do receive interest, then we have an obligation to negotiate with that affordable housing builder or that other governmental agency for an additional 30 days. And any governmental agency or nonprofit builder is required to pay market rate unless the city council determines otherwise. They'd like to write down the land and facilitate a development project. Then lastly, once that's exhausted, the city then can release the request for proposal for private development competition for the build out of the site. Next slide, please. So the timing, as I said, we plan on now bringing back, since, provided I am going to caveat this, that we need the FTA written approval before we bring the property to the city council to deem it surplus. But we are anticipating bringing this back to the council on July 13th to deem the property, and also 100 El Camino Real to the city council to deem both of those parcels surplus. We're in the process of reaching out to appraisers to perform an appraisal on the market rate of both of those properties. We will then send letters out to the agencies and affordable housing builders starting July 19th through, that takes 90 days, takes us through October 18th of 2021. And like I said, once we've exhausted that process under the Surplus Land Act, we can finalize and release the RFP, assuming no outside interest. And that timeline is October 22nd. Then we'll give developers plenty of time, because this is an RFP, request for proposal, rather than an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. So we're anticipating a pretty detailed proposal process for the build out of the city's property. Proposals will be due, estimated timeline, December 17th. We will review those proposals through December and early January, and then have a selection made by the city council the first quarter of 2022. Next slide, please. So be happy to open up for any questions or comments, or the process that we had to undertake, but implementing that 98 agreement and getting title back to those 4 parcels was paramount and absolutely critical in the process of really building out our property and even the entire west side correctly. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council has.
Thank you, City Manager. I have a question, then council, then I'll open it up. There are already 3 people on public comment. I'm a little confused with opening it up as surplus property. I thought we were hanging on to the property and considering leasing. Has something changed with the subcommittee, the council subcommittee direction?
No, the law requires us, even lease property, to now deem public property surplus.
And does that require us to have to sell it, even if we prefer to lease it?
No, it's even lease property that's held by a governmental agency. To even lease it, a council has to deem it surplus to its needs.
Okay, thank you.
Lease and sale are the same thing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Council, I'm looking for hands, or I can't read your faces, folks. I don't see any council comments. If no one's raised their hands, I'm going to open it up for public comment. The first person is phone number ending in 0682. If you could please say your full name and address.
We're ending with 0682.
Hello.
You are unmuted.
Hello?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Oh, hi, my name is Bill Lee, and I am the former Chief Administrative Officer of San Francisco and also a three-time Plan Commissioner, last appointed by Gavin Newsom. I also work for the Bay Area Council as a senior advisor, and we work with 320 companies in the Bay Area in the 9 counties. And I've been looking at this property, and I think the city manager there spoke well of the Transbay Terminal. And I noticed today you're just talking about one of the 3 surplus properties that you own. And my strong suggestion to you is actually put out RFP for all 3 properties. I'm very familiar with the 100 El Camino property that the city bought wisely in 2015. And of that property at the council at that time, you're very wise to say, even though it's a small piece of property, if you combine that with other properties, and your study in 2018 by Matson also stated as a small piece of property. But if you combine these properties together, you would have a larger scale of opportunity. So in closing, I really would like you to push as a council to have the city staff put out for bid all 3 surplus properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Milo Traus?
Hi,
Go ahead.
yeah, thanks. My name is Milo Traus, and I represent one of the land use teams interested in RFPs for the city-owned parcels near the station. Great to see progress on putting out requests for proposals to draw revenue from city-owned land. However, the way this process is outlined in the staff report creates 3 major problems. One is issuing a single RFP for just one of the city's lots promotes inefficient piecemeal development. This precludes optimum assembly of adjacent parcels and guarantees the city will not be provided, or city council will not be provided the ability to realize the full potential of all 3 city-owned parcels. Instead, council should issue RFPs for all the city-owned parcels at the station at once in a coordinated manner. This approach would ensure higher quality, more coordinated development and the potential to allow council millions more in revenue to the community. Secondly, the RFP described today calls for one particular use on one specific parcel. Is this the optimum parcel for a hotel? At a time when the lodging industry is especially stressed, this sets the city down a difficult path. Instead, council should explore more flexible uses for city-owned lots and allow market forces to help determine the very best placement for a hotel on the west side of the state. For example, the 100 El Camino Real parcel, which is not included in today's agenda, but was mentioned by the city. It should have been included in today's agenda. Presents huge development potential when combined with vacated streets. With the tallest height limit in the city at 10 stories, this site could accommodate more than 100,000 square feet of usable space and 100 hotel rooms. I'm not saying it's definitely the best site for a hotel, but it could be. Plus, this location could be more attractive for a hotel because it fronts El Camino Real and it is further from the noise and vibrations of the train tracks. Finally, neither today's staff report nor the Kaiser Marston report take into account the 2016 vibration study that was conducted for the city of Millbrae as part of the Sarah Station proposal. It raises serious questions about the impact of vibration from existing tracks, which might make location of a hotel at the Kiss and Ride lot problematic, especially when the impact of future high-speed rail trains is considered. Remember, a project that cannot be built because it ignores markets or will not impact financing does nothing for the city or your constituents. Again, an RFP should be aimed at fostering integrated proposals to get the maximum benefit from strategically held city lots. This is preferable instead of small piecemeal one-off buildings that will generate less revenue for the city and leave this stretch of El Camino Real, in the words of the staff report, underutilized and recognizably in disrepair with significant obsolescence.
Thank you, Mr. Traus. Ray T. and Ray, if you could please give us your last name. Ray T. We can't. Elaine, do we have any way to help him get unmuted?
He is unmuted, but
He is.
he's not speaking.
Mr. T, do you still want to speak?
It
We
looks like
cannot
they're
hear
trying
you.
to reconnect. So do you want to call on the next
Okay,
caller?
all right. Marge Colapietro, please go ahead. You're okay. You're good to go, Ms. Colapietro.
I unmuted her, so I'm just waiting for her to accept. Okay.
So is it Marge's turn?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's start now, please. I'm not as sophisticated as the previous two persons, but I went basically through the staff report, and I'm speaking for myself and advocating for every resident in our community. All of us, you city council members and your constituents, are property owners of the 3 parcels of land west of the Millbrae Transit Station. The parcels include the Pipe Yard, the Kiss and Ride, and 100 El Camino, former Zach's Restaurant. Page 2 of 3 of the staff report provides a timeline for the process to deem those 3 properties as surplus. The City Council, on our and your behalf, should focus on entitling all the 3 parcels at the same time. I didn't see anywhere on the staff report that it named all the 3 parcels to be at the same time. And the reason it seems to me to be foolish to waste our time and money on 3 separate surplus land entitlements process at 3 separate times when it could be done efficiently at one time. If not all, in my opinion, if it's not all completed in 1 year, the high-speed rail will be able to take our 3 most valuable parcels of land by eminent domain. And council members, I want to remind you that you are the guardians and protectors of our land. Please do the right thing and instruct the city manager to get all 3 precious parcels entitled surplus at the same time and within the timeline schedule on page 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Colapietro. Ray T, we couldn't hear you
I'm
before.
here.
Are you
Can you
ready
hear
to
me?
go? Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah,
If you
thank
could
you.
please give us your last name, though.
Oh, TSE.
Thank you, Mrs. C.
Yeah, it's great that there appears to finally be a motion on the request for proposal discussed today for the Kiss and Ride lot. There should also be a request proposal for the 100 El Camino Rio not discussed in today's agenda items. These should go forward at the same time, and this will work towards the city's goal for maximized revenue generation, for the community through the lot assemblies. Because the longer we wait to entitle city on land, the more likely it will be taken by the high-speed rail. So please focus on entitled city on land, not on a expensive long shot legal battle with the HSR or in a very expensive and impractical undergrounding crusade. Please make your priority entitled city on lands for maximized revenue generation for the community. And City Council, this is the land belongs to the people of Millbrae. You're entrusted with assuring that it's put in a good use for the community. Please take control of this process and make sure it has the chance to be developed so that the community can begin, reaping the benefits. And lastly, I would like to ask, why is the city manager presenting these items? It should be for the planning staff. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. C. Vice Mayor, I do see your hand up. If there are any other public comments, City Clerk, anybody on the phone?
Besides council, I do
in
not
that
see
case, I'm
anybody.
going to go ahead and close public comment. We are in the middle of an agenda item. We're at 10:53.
Yeah.
The rules are that we have to shut down at 11 unless we have a motion to extend the conversation.
Yeah, Mayor, I would
Can
like
we
the
do?
ability to properly address the public.
I understand. I'm asking a point of order here. We've got 7 minutes before technically we close. What should I do? I'm happy to give you all the time and continue this. I'm happy to go late, but what's the process? Joan?
7 minutes. I think we should just keep going.
I don't think we're going to do it.
Not
I don't think we're going to get it done in 7 minutes.
Not if
We can try. I'll stop us at 10:59 then. In which case, Vice Mayor Oliva, please go.
So I'm part of the subcommittee of which we kind of put this whole agenda item on together. And City Manager, I was under the impression that when the RFP, we're going through the process, which I see is 100% correct, that we discussed. But yet when the RFP comes out, it was, we were under the impression that the RFP could include or not all parcels or one.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to take the opportunity
Go ahead,
to
City
address
Manager.
the misinformation by the public that was commenting, because there's a lot of confusion, and now we have the opportunity to correct all the confusion over the last several months. So when
Awesome.
council's ready to hear that, I'd be happy to present it.
Please go ahead, City Manager.
So City Clerk, can you put the presentation back up?
Certainly.
Ridiculous.
Okay, if you can go to the next slide.
City Clerk, could you please mute everyone except the City Manager?
Can you go to the next slide, Elaine, please? Okay, so I agree with Mr. Lee and the other people that were commenting that we need to maximize, well, before we do an RFP, we need to maximize the parcels. And I think that those interested in representing one of the primary property owners was saying that, we need to release an RFP on all of our parcels. Well, we can only release an RFP on property that we own. And so the only property that we owned was this surface parking lot right here. And that's why it was important to move forward with the 1998 agreement to get the property from BART transferred back to the city, which includes the purple parcels, which now allows the entire area to be developed. We could not issue an RFP for the purple parcels until BART transfers the title back to the city and we've got control of that property. And so I agree with them. And that's unfortunately the process that we undertook with BART to renegotiate the 98 agreement to finally get control over that property. So we're in agreement there. And I wanted to make sure that the council and the community and the public knew that we could not issue an RFP until we had that property under control. I think as the Vice Mayor mentioned, our intention is to craft an RFP that either, follows the Kaiser Marston highest and best use study for a hotel on this entire our city-owned parking lot and DRR and D3125, which that gets us that gross acreage of 1.14 acres versus the 0.82 acres of the parking lot. And so the build out potential is maximized. The comments about this is public property and this council and the city shoulder the responsibility. Well, we're doing exactly that. We are maximizing the potential build out, fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to get the highest and best use for this property. And so whether a land use is feasible or not, that's why we're going to go out for competitive bid, an RFP, and we'll be able to determine, what developer has the best financial capacity, what developer has the best experience to develop what is in the vision of the city and what is in the best interest of the city of Millbrae and the community, not a singular interest. So that does include the Linden Avenue parcel 100 El Camino as part of the RFP, and we will put language in the RFP and we will entertain development projects that build out the entire west side. We just can't do an RFP for the entire west side because we don't own the property. We can only release an RFP on property that we own.
Thank you, City Manager. Vice Mayor?
But we're willing to entertain the development of the entire area. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we absolutely in the RFP will entertain projects or proposals that can utilize our property as one of the puzzle pieces to build out the entire west side. Absolutely.
Thank you for the
I'm anticipating we'll get a series of various proposals on this.
beautiful. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. It is 10:58, Council. We have rules.
Mr.
Gina, it's Ruben next, but we're at 5:58. It's almost 5:59. I need a motion to extend the agenda. If there's no motion, we end at 11.
So move.
So move to extend?
Yes, please.
Then
Okay.
5 minutes.
Can we go 15 so I don't have to do it again? Extend to 11:15 in the hope we finish. Annie, are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
1
Second?
1 minute.
Second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman. Vote.
Councilmember Holliver,
Aye.
Councilmember Fung,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Leva,
Aye.
Mayor Snyder.
Aye.
The city council meeting has been extended to 11:15 by a vote of 5.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilman Holliver,
Just
and then
one
Pappen.
comment regarding the pipe yard that was mentioned. If you're looking at the screen now, you see the train tracks that run between the west side of the station and the east side of the station. The pipe yard is located on the east side of the station. It is not adjoining any other parcels. It really, there's no logical reason for that property to be combined in an RFP with at the same time or in any way connected with the properties on the west side of the station. There was a request for qualifications that was submitted, that was issued last year to build a data center on that property. There was one response to that request for qualifications, and it was really, in my opinion, really non-responsive to the RFQ. Our city staff offered to meet with the interested developer to discuss what they had proposed to us, but then they, at the last minute, decided not to meet with us and refused to meet with our city manager and our public works director to discuss that project. So at this point in time, I believe we may reissue something in the future and reach out to data center developers, but there's no reason, in my opinion, to include that parcel with the two parcels on the west side of that community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Holliver. Councilwoman Pappen.
Again, Mr. City Manager, the subcommittee has talked about all three parcels or whatever parcels. The point being is that we need to declare them excess property now, or whatever the term is, and put them all out at once instead of piecemealing them. So that's
Once we have title of the property, then we will do that. And by no means are we piecemealing it. Again, I think that's just a red herring and confusion, because as you can see here, the property to the right consolidates all of the parcels into one parcel, and it's not piecemeal.
you were not clear on the fact that we would put them all up as excess property all at once. That's what we're asking for clarification on, that you don't go out separately to the public or to the nonprofits, whatever they are, that this all happens at once.
Yeah, that was the whole point of spending the time to get the property from BART transferred back to the city. To achieve that objective.
So this would include 100 El Camino Real, correct?
It will.
Thank you.
That's why just, I think there was comments that it was not part of this is why we have this exhibit and we've outlined it in the presentation this evening.
You were not clear on whether that was going to be advertised as the excess property. That's what.
Thank you. I think it's clear now. Councilwoman Pappen, do you have other questions?
Yes, we take up a lot of time discussing how much time we're not going to have. So
Gina, stop it. Go ahead. You have other questions. Go.
I finished my question.
No, okay, fine. Council, any other comments? Councilman Fung. Not
Thank
to
you.
put you on the spot, but want to give you the
No, it's okay.
opportunity.
That's all. Thank you. That's all right. Councilmember Holliver was right. We are continuing to welcome any development proposal for the pipe yard, but that being at a separate side of the train track, it doesn't make any sense for that to be combined with the rest of the property that is owned by the city. This particular exhibit is extremely helpful, right, to describe what we own and what we're going to put out in an RFP in a single fashion, right? And that would be done independent of the pipe yard that is on the east side, on the east side of the train track. So, and I want to make sure the public understand. It is a very important, critical concept that the city is doing everything we can to ensure that this development, that is upcoming development, that we're now making it possible. We're doing everything we can to ensure that this is the highest and best use for the people of Millbrae. It is absolutely, from my perspective, there's just no other way to do it than to do all these property at the same time, right? And that would give us the most, the highest and best use and the most revenue generating fashion. So, I want the public to understand, and I'm assuring the public that we're doing everything we can to ensure that this is happening. So despite all these communications that we've been seeing via email, council comments, I want the public to know that this is on our mind and this is what we're striving to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Fung. Question related to what Councilman Holliber and Fung brought up on the pipe yard. If we've done an RFQ, we didn't get back what we were hoping for. If we go out again and we eventually find something we like, do we then have to go through the surplus process at that point in time?
Yes.
City manager?
We do.
Okay, then I hate to even open this up, but would it make sense to just do it now and get it out of the way, even though it does not have to be bundled in the subsequent RFP?
I'm not recommending that. One of the items that we pulled from the agenda tonight is a very expensive land lease from Caltrans, which is now part of the law. And if we could look for other areas of storage that would otherwise accommodate our needs, and we don't have to lease expensive land from Caltrans, this is that property, that triangular piece of property there on the east side of the tracks would benefit the city.
Excellent
so I would
point.
not recommend that we deem that surplus.
Okay, thank you. This is an informational item tonight. Every council member has spoken. Public comment is closed. Do you feel you need any other direction from council?
No, if the council is clear and they're not confused, I mean, really, the objective was to make sure that there was no confusion on how land development works. I've got 35 years of experience in this and can put my resume up here, and we're doing everything properly to benefit the city and to benefit the citizens and the taxpayers. And again, consolidating the property so we don't piecemeal it is the very reason why we needed to move forward and negotiate the new agreement with BART for the transfer of land to the city.
Thank you, City Manager. You know, if I can make one tiny suggestion, can we put what you've just done on a page specific to this on the website? I like to point when people comment, call me, email me, whatever, I can point them to a place on the website where they can get the correct information on that. If we could do that, I think that might help any further emails that we get.
Yeah,
with that, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the staff report is posted and accessible on our website and public.
I think this particular exhibit says it all.
Okay.
100 El Camino Real was always being considered. So thank you for that. All right, closing this. I know we didn't do council comments. I just have to give you an update of what's happening with the SFO roundtable. But if any other council members have something to report that's of critical nature, I'm happy to let you go first. Okay, here's what's happening with the SFO roundtable. Go ahead.
Really quick.
Please, go ahead, Annie.
I want to say 2 happy things. Congratulations to Mackenzie for her baby boy. One of our superstars in Millbrae, and happy birthday to our city manager tomorrow. Well, today. It's almost today.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Belated happy birthday, city manager. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
No, it's tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, hopefully we let you sleep in tomorrow at least. All right. SFO Noise Roundtable was created many decades ago by former mayor of Millbrae, former supervisor Mary Griffin. It originally started with just the cities in close to the airport dealing with the noise of the time. Over the decades, it had been expanded to include other cities in San Mateo County. For the last 5 years, after the Federal Aviation Agency concentrated flights coming in under a program called NextGen, the roundtable started getting complaints at every meeting from as far away as Kensington in the East Bay to Scotts Valley and Aptos. Palo Alto has 4 other times tried to become a member of the roundtable, and the roundtable members have always voted no. 2 weeks ago, they voted yes, with the exceptions of Millbrae, Pacifica, Brisbane, and Daly City. The problem is not necessarily adding Palo Alto, although they want to remain on their own roundtable, Santa Clara and Santa Cruz roundtable. They want to serve in both roundtables, which is unique. The problem is we only have a half-time staff person, and that staff person said they cannot do everything. So what would get dropped is the work that just got done. We just had a draft study completed on ground-based noise, low frequency noise, and departure noise, which affects a lot of the cities north of us. So hence the reason for the 4 no votes. San Bruno, being brand new, voted yes, thinking kumbaya. I'm being very sarcastic intentionally. That means that we had 1 meeting in January where the report was released, and it includes some things that could help our residents both with air pollution and noise pollution. Now, what's also going on at San Francisco is an EIR that they have continued through the process, even with the COVID and the huge financial hit they had. This is for their next set of expansions. If the roundtable goes forward, directing staff to move to the MOU and taking away from ground-based noise and departures, it also likely means that, again, SFO roundtable will not comment on SFO's EIR, which means likely the city of Millbrae will be the only entity commenting on the EIR, and that clock is ticking. And I cannot get the roundtable to say that the importance of EIRs is that's when you have to put your comments in. If you don't do it, you lose your opportunity for mitigation, for help for our residents. And I just needed y'all to know that that's the direction it's going, and that community development staff has been aware of this, and that Millbrae, at least, we're going to need to go ahead with our comments on the EIR, because that's how San Francisco has been allowed to grow and grow and grow with 0 mitigation to Millbrae. So that's my comment. With that, if there's no other comments, I've got to find my notes here. I am sad to say, and I would like to close tonight's Millbrae City Council in the memory of Millbrae School District trustee Maggie Musa's dad, Nicola Jaber Nijme. He passed away 44 days ago, and I just got word last week. I've met Maggie's dad, Nicola, lovely person who stayed at home till the end, and our thoughts and prayers are out with trustee Maggie and her family during this time. Glad to have happy news, but very sad to hear about Maggie's dad. With that, we have a closed door session starting almost immediately. Thank you everyone for staying this late. We are disconnecting from this URL and going into the closed door session. See you all as quickly as you can get there. Thank you.